Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Do you know, it always freaks me out when our pictures come up. My one's slightly larger than everybody else's. I'm like, whoa, that's just my face. There's my
Hair.
face. It's mainly hair. It's just like a mass of hair. I'm good. Apologies to everyone. We had a slight technical issue with mics. What was it, your camera?
That camera had to go and get a second laptop and boot that up. And as you will see, I'm in somewhere different. I've been relegated to my garage tonight, kind of last minute. We decided that Killian is now old enough for his big boy's room, so he's having his first night's sleep there. So that is me shunted out of my Blether room and into the Bletherage. Garage, Bletherage.
Leather.
The Bletherage.
You're like,
Yeah.
what's he called? Is it Rolf? Ralph? He does like
Ruffy.
whiskey. Yeah, he does it in a shed, doesn't he? He sits in a
Yeah,
garage.
he's got a bothy. He's got his bothy.
Was that Bothy?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. It's exciting. There's quite a few people on, like earning millions from your pub. Were you? Yeah, maybe you were.
It's not a pub, Callum. It's a whiskey bar. Come on.
Lounge.
Lounge. It's a fog house. Of course it is.
It is a fog house. It's awesome.
Awesome.
Like you must still be buzzing off the success of that last weekend. Like I was here on Saturday night, was like you had to turn people away. It was so busy.
We had to start turning people away after an hour of opening. It was.
That's amazing. Jesus Christ, that's a fair jug of water you've got there.
I know. That's like my lunch and my dinner. So it's been a pretty mental weekend, and as Tony reminded me when we opened that's just the start. So yeah, we spent a couple of days this week back in the shop, just kind of getting back on a straight and even kilter there. Having lots of fun. So yeah, it's pretty full on. This is my second night, or our first full day that I haven't been in the bar since we opened. So we actually went to the cinema this morning. It was our first day off for ages. 26 degrees. 9 o'clock in the morning. We thought, you know what? Let's go to the cinema. Let's stay inside and stay cool and watch a movie. It's the first time since Killian was born we've been out together to the cinema. So we watched Jurassic World. It was terrible.
Romantic.
It cost 50 quid to get in. The film was probably worth a fiver.
What the hell? 50 quid to watch a film? Jeez, so
nuts. You're better off with whiskey, guys. Honestly,
better off with the Blether. It's cheap, fun, informative, educational,
infinitely more epic.
Yeah, and there could be a dinosaur. You never know.
It could be. I hope you're not attributing that to our guest tonight.
I'm going to do the Blether dressed up as one of those inflatable dinosaurs one time. That would be awesome because I do have like tiny little T-Rex arms, so it would be on brand.
Let's say good evening to our guys at home. We've got Scott who's on. Dave Fackerson, good evening to you. Major Nut, good to see you. Dutch Jura, good evening to you.
John, hi. I met him in the Bonaccord the other night. I met him in real life.
Oh, really? He was in past the shop a few weeks or months ago, maybe, to say hello. So he's having a Glencadam 10. Scott has got the Armagnac Golden Promise. I think is that the distillery exclusive. Diego, hello Diego, good evening. Because of our chat last week, I went out and I bought myself a lovely Palo Cortado 20-year-old from Williams and Humbert sherry. How good is that? I'll let you have a taste of it, Kat, sometime. So that
Thank
is in
you.
my garage collection now, straight at the front of this shelf.
Awesome.
What else have we got? Frank is in. Sugar Kitty is in. Meow. I guess that's for you, Kat. You'll
I hope
understand that
so. I
language.
better not be upstaged by somebody else with a cat name. But yeah, meow back to you.
Bob Sander is in. He has poured a dram of the Glenallachie Sintis at 2014. Keith Duncan, good evening to you. I think that Tim Powells is in. Marie, good evening. Awesome, great to have you all. And Callum is saying, imagine taking the train from the middle of nowhere to the big city and not organising a Blether meet-up in Glasgow. How dare you?
Oh, I know. I was there for work, so it was a bit of a flying visit. I say I was there for work. I went out the night before work, but yeah, it was a bit of a flying visit. And yes, you did get a famous cat hug, John. You didn't really have much of a choice, to be honest.
What time of the night was this, John? Because that kind of emphasises the strength of the hug, whether it was a wee hello or a bear hug.
Yeah, I don't think I'd consumed any drams by then, but no, it's lovely, lovely to see. We've got Mr. McKendrick on as well. I love Freud quarter cask. Nice
Yes.
choice. Awesome.
And we also have Keith has opened his bottle of a 17-year-old Fetter Cairn. I wonder where he got that from.
Was that your one?
That is, he says, what a belter. It's a big drama, isn't it, Keith? We'd love to hear your more intimate thoughts on that.
So quite a few people had a glass of that at your opening night. Because were you giving it out as a sort of mystery dram?
They got a choice as a welcome dram, either a cocktail or whiskey. So went down quite well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I got past the glass and they're like, oh, what is it? Mike didn't say what it was. And I gave it a bit of a nose. I was like, that must be his big Fettercairn sherry monster. But it smelled gorgeous. Everyone was loving it.
It is. It is. And I didn't take my own bottle through, or else I would have shared in a dram with Keith. But let's get our guest on tonight,
Yes.
Because we are now 7.5 minutes in and we haven't even talked Billy yet. Let's bring in whiskey's most famous Billy into the stage.
Annoyingly second most famous these days. There's this guy, Billy Walker. You may have heard of him. He got a marketing team and all of a sudden he beats me on Google. It's very upsetting.
Yeah, he's paying for it. He's putting millions into advertising to get above you in the whiskey crowd, I'm sure.
Really weirdly, until the last couple of years, you type whiskey Billy into Google. It was me. I was all over the front page and it was all great. But they've started. He actually has a marketing team now, and they start actually making the whole thing work. And all of a sudden, it's almost like he's been in the industry for significantly longer than I've been alive, or something. You know, it's. I will allow it. I will allow it.
You've got time's on your side, Billy. You can catch up on him.
One day, maybe I can.
Yeah. Once you've flipped a couple of distilleries and made your millions.
Yeah, working on it.
Yeah, exactly. But you are producing some wonderful books.
Thank you very much.
We have got the Philosophy of Whisky. Look at that. That's a screenshot if ever I saw one.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll mark where that was. Like, yeah, we'll get that up on the socials. Beautifully planned.
I do. I love the book. It's so quirky and fun, and just a great look at the industry or the drink. Before we get into that, before we get into you, how did your Armagnac exam go?
Yeah, I use
Well,
the Emperor of Armagnac.
I have props.
Awesome.
There we go.
Oh, congratulations.
I did have a smaller one, but I can't find it. I've only been back from Armagnac for like literally 4 days, and I've already lost one of my things saying I'm an Armagnac educator. I was in Armagnac for a week for this particularly scary course of. We were 9 until about 9 in the morning till 10 at night. There was a break booked in on the Wednesday. We had 2 hours on Wednesday evening. Unfortunately, we were running late, so we had 1 hour on Wednesday evening was our break for the week. And then we had some exams on Friday morning, and they believed in us enough to pre-print and frame some lovely certificates for us, which I then had to try and get back from France in a Ryanair sort of like bag. So, it was an interesting one. So
That's worth
yeah.
leaving the clothes in France for, though.
Fortunately, I thought I was going to bring back a load of booze, so I bought a bag, and then I brought back a load of booze and also a certificate. So
That.
it's
I
been
would
a busy week because
that. Just like sit in the plane holding it just so everybody can look at it. I wouldn't even have tried to pack it. They're like, yeah, sorry, did you see my
I'm
certificate?
fairly sure Ryanair wouldn't let me on with that. They
So boring.
in the queue, they were taking people out of their bags looked even slightly too big, and I just tried to look tiny. Well, I tried to look really big myself, and then my bag looked smaller.
Yeah.
I'm quite good at looking big, so. But I got another one in it. I got that as well in the post. So I'm also a qualified sake person as well. So
gosh, you've been so
Armagnac.
busy.
yeah, but that was back in February. WSET are terrible at sending out results, so that was February. I did that. So, but finally got that back. But yeah, no, it's been. I have all the props now as well. I have my Armagnac style fan, just in case it gets too hot.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's really great. So the BNIA, the Bureau National Interprofessionnel Armagnac, who are like the not quite the SWA, a bit more involved than that for Scotch whisky, but they decided to start training up educators around the world. So I got to go to Armagnac, go and visit distilleries, cooperage, stillmaker, and just wander around and just learn all about Armagnac, so I can tell people all about it. So I did a training session yesterday afternoon because I thought I'd better do so before I forgot everything. And people seem to enjoy drinking a load of booze while I rambled. So yeah, no, it's been a lovely week. So thank you very much, and thank you also for being a very good distraction while I was downloading 2.5 gigs worth of slides last week when you were chatting with Diego. I was sitting there going, I need to revise. The slides haven't downloaded yet. Why aren't they downloading? So thank you very much for being there for me when I needed to distract myself from having my revision.
Otherwise, it's just a stretch, isn't it?
Yeah. Exams are so stressful. Some people are so good at them, and and other people, it's just like as soon as you know it's exam conditions, that's it. Your brain's like, no, we've forgotten everything. So I mean, well done you for doing
it's one of the things when I'm teaching people, I spend a lot of time. Me and my colleague Alex, who do our teaching, the Whisky Exchange, which I now be quiet about, we teach a lot of people, and we spend a lot of time explaining exam conditions and how to do exams, because most of the people haven't done an exam in 10, 20 years. So fortunately for me, I've done a load of exams recently, so I've zeroed in, all sorted.
Do you know what I found most stressful? I did like the WSET parts 1 and 2 just because my work put me through it for free. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, I will. It was like literally just getting logged on was the most stressful thing, because if you don't do it in time, like they assume you're not there, and then my internet's so shit every time, like it froze for any length of time. So I had to reset it because they're like, oh no, it didn't upload, so like I had to do it again. Like that's the most scary part of it, is just bloody technology. Just give me a bit of paper and a fountain pen. Like let's go back old school. Give me a desk. That's the best way of doing exams. Don't give me internet and technical problems to deal with.
Well, as someone who has, I've got like 10 fountain pens on my desk at the moment. I do agree. I collect fountain pens, but no, WSET. I used to love the online thing because I didn't have to bother sitting in a room and invigilate, and it was just easy. I say, go off, look after yourselves. Nothing to do with me. Yeah, I do all of my exams in person now. There's a reason why.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you collect fountain pens. You're also a Lego fanatic too, I understand. I thought I was going to say I thought we'd see some Lego around, but yeah, no, you're right. There's actually a lot of Lego there.
Is that Slave 1 behind you?
Yeah. That's one of my, I think I've got 4 or 5 Slave 1s. I have a slight obsession with Slave 1. Got a load more in here.
Know what that is.
It's a spaceship from Star Wars.
Boba Fett spaceship, I think, is the official name now, because slave's a naughty word. It's got to the point that this one, I bought the instructions off a guy online and then brought all the bricks individually, and then built it.
Oh, wow.
I'm very sad. I've got many hobbies, and unfortunately, many of them are very sad things. But this is a fantastic model that a guy did his own instructions for it, and you could buy it. It cost like £2 for the instructions, and horrific amounts of money for the actual Lego. But yeah,
that's cool. Is it like a little space dude?
That's exactly who he is. He's like the greatest bounty hunter ever existed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm out of my comfort zone with space stuff, and I'm not even going to get down the whole "I hate aliens" route again. We're so early into the chat, but I love Lego. My kids like it, but I'm not very creative with it. So like they'd build these amazing things, and I would just like get a little Lego pig, and, like stick it on a brick, and be like, "Look, a farm." Like that's not very good, Mom.
This is by far my favorite Lego model I've ever made. That's my Lego llama.
Oh, well, he's pretty impressive.
I love it.
He just sits there on my desk next to my collection. Oh, I've taken away all my figures. No, I've. Why I did put it here. I bought one of these display things because I have too many Lego men, and I thought I'd sort of like do my minifigs into a frame. Unfortunately, I can't. My favourite one is my mum's a lay preacher, and she and I have many chats about the joys of Christianity and other religions. So just hiding there, I got a little Lego Jesus as a present from my mum. I may not be religious myself, but I have a little Lego Jesus, and I also have a little Lego me in the middle with a beard and a pint and a baseball cap. So
You can get yourself made into Lego. Oh my God, Mike! Can we get Lego Blether in hosts? Can we be Lego?
Absolutely.
I love it.
This is all things that can be organised. All things are possible with Lego.
I love it.
And that's the voice of the Lego marketing board. There we go.
Paul Dempsey's on. Good evening, Paul. He has said he's still recovering from visiting the Lego store in Germany with yourself and Ian Allen. I can imagine you and Ian having a great time geeking out together.
Getting in a Lego shop is a dangerous thing. They announced today, I think it's today, they just announced it, they're going to do a Lego Soundwave from Transformers, the cassette Transformer, the cassette player. And there's a little group, me and another friend of mine who are slightly big Lego fans. Within seconds of the announcement, there was that's the thing we have to buy first day it comes out. So I've never been in a Lego shop with Ian. I imagine that would be a very scary situation.
I love how much we're accidentally promoting Lego.
It's awesome. Yeah, hopefully they'll pick up on it and they'll sponsor the next Blether or something. Give us a multi-million-pound studio to host from.
That'd be
I've got a whiskey friend from Spain who he used to write a blog and it's all based on affiliate links, and so he was trying to make money out of affiliate links. But he also wrote a Lego blog, so he used to do whiskey and Lego and earn money from affiliate links on both of those blogs. It's back 10 years ago. I haven't seen him for ages now. But yeah, so the world of Lego and the world of whiskey has a significant crossover, even on the commercial front. So
amazing. 100%. Look the way we brought that back round. You're an expert through and through. Full circle back round to whiskey. Well done.
I try.
I don't know. Did we ask you guys what's in your glass tonight? I don't think we asked you, Billy or Mike. I'm saying this because I want to show you what's in my glass tonight. I'm actually whose face is that?
Oh wow, it's the picture which I hate. Yay.
I love it. You're so purple. That's a great picture. I kind of feel like I'm starting like the Billy Abbott Appreciation Society or cult, if you like. If anybody wants to sign up to the cult of Billy tonight, then
I have been told there is already a London branch. As a friend of mine who claims to be the president of my fan club, but I'm also the president of her fan club, so it's all fine. We're doing all right on that front. So
it works out. Well, if you need a Scottish president of your,
but say go for it. I'm very, very happy to franchise out. There's a fee structure. We can have a chat about it later. So
fantastic. Well, that's what's in my glass tonight, courtesy of Mr. McKendrick, who's let me have a little go of it. So yeah, we're gonna get that poured in a minute. It's a bit of a sherry bomb, so I don't know if it's going to be my bad, but it's a Ben Nevis. If Louise is watching, then it's one for her.
One for her. I haven't poured anything yet because I was scrambling around getting. What I did, I loved your quote on your book. Whiskey is liquid memory, I think, or words to that effect.
I can't remember. I wrote this. I wrote a couple of years ago. There's a couple of bits I remember. Oh, I've just realised that this book's actually signed to me from me.
I
had this very bad habit of, so I sell books through my website, and I kept on signing my copy that I'd dog-eared pages and things like that. I'd sign it to somebody and ship it out accidentally. So this one is now signed to me specifically, so I don't send it to anybody accidentally. Yeah, there's lots of words in it, and I remember some of them. I remember writing most of them. Yeah, I'm drinking this year's Lefroy Kerchus, Because I
Nice.
looked on my shelf and it was the only properly peaty whiskey I've got open, sat on the side, which is also cask strength. Because I'm blaspheming in a way that I thoroughly enjoy. So I have a Mizawari, so not even soda. This is just water. And Mike, you were showing off your gigantic mug. Well, I also have a gigantic. It's been so hot today here down in London. I have been just constantly necking water in an attempt to try and not sweat myself to death. So I'm
Yeah.
now cooling down. I have now properly hydrated and ensuring that I have a lovely hydrating beverage.
Awesome. We're all about responsible drinking and responsible rehydration. Well done.
So while I was digging in my garage, found a couple of boxes of whiskey that I haven't investigated in a long time, and I came across. So, as we said, drinking whiskey is liquid history. This is batch one of your Virgin Oak Glengarry, and I have a batch two as well, which has got a little bit more in it. So I'm not sure. This is the last dram, and I can't remember the last time I had this out. So this might be a bit oxidated. But I did notice if Reb is watching, we have the kosher stamp on the back there as well. Being a Virgin Oak, I guess, helps with that. But it's not. Oh no, it is on the other one as well. So that's what I've poured. I'm not sure how it's going to taste because, like I said, it's probably been a good year at the bottom of this bottle. But let's see if it tastes as good as I remember it, because this was for a long time, one of my favourite Glengarrys.
Do you know, I haven't even tried batch one because it was sold out before I started the distillery. So, so
I
yeah,
mean, I would love to share it with you, but it's in a glass now, so it's just
it's fine.
sorry.
You can just tell me all about it.
Mm.
We seem to work really well in Virgin Oak, to be honest. Like, it just seems to be happy bedfellows.
One of the few who, especially for a full maturation, I think it's about 8 years old, if I remember right, for full maturation in Virgin Oak, and yeah, it's just I think you've got quite a at the time it was a bit of a bolder spirit that really works with it. It doesn't get overpowered. It's still Glengarry, still nice and kind of honeyed and sweet, but with a good kick in it. Yeah, it's mellowed. I remember it being really robust, but in the glass just now, it's quite soft and sweet. Lots of honey and maybe a bit of orange coming through. But yeah, really, it stood the test of time. Well, I'll give you that.
I remember it shocking me because I've been an advocate. Well, I'm outspoken about many things when it comes to whiskey casks, being someone who likes refilled bourbon casks best of all. But so Virgin Oak is like the proper. Well, why would you do that? It's a waste of a cask and a waste of whiskey. But I remember the Glengarry. I'm fairly sure I tried the batch one. I just remember that, and then also Deanston worked very well. But still, I'm always a little bit wary. And I tried one yesterday, which is a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 17-year-old, full maturation Virgin Oak. And I was just sitting there going, I have to write notes on this for work. I'm not entirely sure this is going to be a nice thing for me. And I just sat there going, this works really well. It's almost like the person who selected this knows what they're doing. Somebody I work with, so obviously they do. But yeah, so Virgin Oak is one of those things where so often I say, no, they're all terrible, apart from the ones I like, and I really like those. So yeah.
I was at a whiskey tasting with Andrew Smith of Little Brown Dog, where we talked about the science of whiskey, and we were talking Virgin Oak. That came up, and Andrew came up with a really good point about the wood and how it interacts with Scotch. He's saying a lot of the time we underplay Virgin Oak because we're afraid of it overpowering. He says there is this intermittent part where the whiskey's really good and then it goes through a wee stage where it does get overpowered. But if you fight through that stage and you let the whiskey do its work or the barrel do its work, it breaks down the wood influence, and at the far end, if you look at 8 years and beyond, then it does really start to interact again, and you get some really good spirit. We're always afraid of that initial bit in the middle, and we don't push past it. It was really interesting. That's the first time I'd heard that, and yeah, so I think if you're drinking 17-year-old Virgin Oak cask, I think it's proof is in the pudding, as they say. It's really
Yeah. Well, to go back to my lovely Armagnac training from the other week, the guys in Armagnac, what they normally do is they put their spirit into new oak for the first couple of years, and then they'll use a semi-used cask. One which has been used a couple of times before. So new oak is like the first couple of uses for a couple of years. Then they'll do a semi-used one, and then they'll do old oak. So they get all that, try and get as much influence as quickly as possible, but then let that time mellow it out. And if you do push past that sort of like that chunk in the middle where you're getting too much, the cask then gives up most of what it's going to give, and then you just have that time just mellowing out and becoming lovely. And I've so seldom found it in Scotch whisky because, as you say, people are scared. You don't want to waste an entire hoggy or a barrel of whiskey. So people don't experiment. When you do, and I can tell you the lovely people who did it was my lovely namesake Mr. Walker and the Glenallachie gang. But yeah, so that's from way before when they took over. So sitting in the corner of the warehouse somewhere, somebody else has been playing around and experimenting, and it's that experimenting and saying, yeah, well, if it goes wrong, hey, we've got enough other casks, and we just blend that away somewhere, and it's great that people are doing that. So every now and again, I have to eat my words. I'm quite good at that. So
he does love a virgin oak cast, doesn't he, Billy Walker?
Yeah, he did like a whole kind of there's a whole series, wasn't there? There's Spanish, Hungarian, what's the other one?
I've got a few of them here. What have I got here? It's a Sauterne. I think they're in here somewhere. I've got the Hungarian one. I've got the Spanish oak, and I've got a French oak. I think that was the first series. No, the Scottish oak was the first.
Oh yeah, I like the Scottish oak.
A Spanish and a French, and then the Hungarian was in the second trilogy that he had out. Sugar Kitty says it tells you a lot of why bourbons are rarely in the 20-year range, and even a lot of 18-year-olds are over oaked.
Yeah, that's a climate thing more than anything. I would say, just because in Scotland, at least, there is this much more temperate sort of thing. So you get your impact, but then it's a much slower thing. Whereas in America, it's just like, here's some more wood, pile it on, and you end up drinking splinters, and it's just it's rare to find anything which is not just literally just licking the inside of a cask. Which, if that's your bag, go for it. But
it's a sweeter spirit as well, isn't it? I think bourbon kind of works more hand in hand with the spice because of that sweeter corn or rye element in there that interacts a little bit better. It seems to, for me, it handles it at a younger age a little bit better.
For me, it's one of those things when people talk about bourbon, and it's just something I sort of see in lots of other definitions of spirits. Is people ask often, why does American whiskey have to, bourbon and rye, or the big name ones, why do they have to be new oak? And people say, oh yeah, the lumberjack unions are really big back in the 50s, and the reason why is because it wouldn't taste right otherwise. If you've tried American whiskey from refill, it doesn't taste the same. It's not as intense. It doesn't have the thing. And so the reason why bourbon tastes like it does is because of that new oak. And that sweetness, I think a lot of that comes from that interaction of the oak and the grain. If you didn't have the new oak along with those grains, which they're not sweet so much when you sort of try them, but it's that interaction which creates that thing. And I'm slightly obsessed with casks, you might be able to tell. But yeah, it's very much that thing of it's a mysterious world inside a cask, and we're still trying to understand it. And so I have all these different plans for more books to write. Just behind the camera there, I've got a pile of notebooks, all of which are basically empty, but have a sticker on the front with the name of a potential book.
Okay.
One of which is actually been written and published by some other people, but they changed the name, thankfully, at least. So I might be able to still get away with it. Yeah. That was fun being told by the people writing it that they were just about to publish a book, although it's taken 5 years to come out. While we were on a video thing, very much like this, and the person said, "Oh, our book's going to be called this," and I was sitting there going, "Don't say anything. Don't say anything." But one of the things I want to write about is the science of whiskey, which I'm really big fan of. I've got people who I now know in lots of different areas within the whiskey world who understand those scientific bits or are allied to whiskey, and the science of a cask is something that people haven't really dug into in more popular science. If you go look at the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, you can find a pile of papers. They're all papers which just go straight over my head. I gave up. I'm a failed scientist about 30 years ago. So 30 years of not doing science, and I have no idea what the words mean. So fortunately, I've got some nice people who might explain it to me, and one day I might be able to tell the world about the science of casks a bit better.
Would you want to do it in a similar way that you kind of broke down this book, as in, kind of manageable, kind of learning kind of chunks, like the way you've written about it, it's not like it's whiskey for dummies, like Whiskey 101, but it's that kind of nice halfway point between we're not going full geek, we're giving you an explanation, like an overall. Is that kind of like the sort of writing style that you want to keep reproducing in terms of like your other books you want to release? Or do you want to go full on geek?
It's going to be a little bit more geeky, because if you start talking about, various different, so the terpenes in a cask, as soon as you start talking about that a little bit more geeky, you have to go a step more. This one's a really weird book. The reason why it came out, and this was circling around before we started recording, I don't have all of them anymore because they've released a load more, but there's a whole range. So the British Library have done this range, the Philosophy of Different Things. And originally, I think the plan was for them to have something to stick on the little whirly rack by the checkout in the British Library gift shop.
Oh, yeah.
They've expanded it now, and they've got a load more than this. But it all started from this book, The Philosophy of Beards. So this is a transcription which was originally published in 1854 by this guy Thomas S. Gowing, who basically said that gentlemen should wear a beard. If a lady can grow a beard, she may also wear a beard. She should be proud if she does. And on the front, it specifically just says, the absence of beard is usually a sign of physical and moral weakness. And at the time, it was just known as, he was an eccentric, and he did these lectures and they transcribed them. And it was meant to be not quite funny, but it's meant to be just a bit of a, this is a man with a weird point of view. Everybody loves it. So they republished it, and it went down really well. And they went, maybe we should do a whole series.
Yeah.
So they just approached people about other things. And so we got whiskey and gin and beer and wine. So drinky things. But there's also cheese, coffee, which is another drinky thing, tea, another drinky thing, curry, and tattoos. And where's the tattoo one from? Here it is, yeah. So this is the one I really want to get around to reading and haven't yet. So I've been told that it, along with the curry one, are both really incredible, short, they're only little books, but pulling apart of the cultural appropriation of tattoos and curry around the world, and how different people have taken designs and flavors and used them from different places, and the way that spread culture, but also being appropriate. And so tiny, not particularly big books, but quite important treatises. And so I feel slightly semi-embarrassed by this. At the same time, I was very proud of it. I don't go quite so deep. And people always say to me, what is the philosophy of whiskey? And I say, well, you have to buy the book to find out. Also, I'm not a philosopher. So there's not a lot of philosophy in there. There's just a lot of stuff about, how things are made. But the big thing for me is, when I first pitched it, I said, I would like to write this about the history. And I got the email back. I just saw like the little preview line. And it said, concerning the amount of history, ... And I was like, oh no, they're going to say they don't want so much of that. And so concerning the amount of history, it would be better if about half the book was about history. It's like, score, there we go, lovely. And so what I've tried to do in it is explain how the different bits of the world have connected up through whiskey. And as I say right at the beginning of it, whiskey is a really great lens to view social history and technology and just general how we've developed. If you see, you can use lots of different things as well. Obviously, whiskey is best. But if you take whiskey, its attitudes to whiskey, how it's made, how it fits in society, how it's transported around. Over the past however many hundred years, you can see those changes, and whiskey has always been there, in there. And it sort of shows you that development around the world in a way they find really interesting. So, but it's also me writing, and I'm not a philosopher. So it's very much a book where the editor beat me around the head. If you read some of my old blog posts, I'm definitely somebody who used to like writing a really long sentence with lots of little parentheses and subclauses and all that wrapped around itself. And I look at it and think, that is the perfect paragraph in one entire sentence. Amazing. And the editor, on reading the first chapter, went, yeah, stop doing that. just like write for normal people who like reading rather than just yourself. And it's like, and just that one comment sort of changed the way I wrote, and it's made me a much better writer. And so, again, yeah, not simplistic, but at the same time as trying to break things down in a useful fashion. And hopefully, if I do eventually, turn one of these notebooks into a science of whiskey, it will continue and people will be able to understand what's going on. That's the whole point.
It's such a it sounds like it should be straightforward, but I was doing media training yesterday, and they give you like a whiskey based scenario around the company that I work for. They make it quite an uncomfortable scenario so they can really push at you a little bit, try and knock you off your pace, and kind of force you to say something you shouldn't. But I was talking about an expression from Lafroig actually, and the journalist the guy that was leading the course, you're explaining it too much like you know about whiskey. I'm like, well, I do know about whiskey, and you're pretending to be a journalist from Whiskey Magazine. He's like, yeah, I know, but you have to always assume that somebody who's just picked up this magazine for the first time, like they're in the hairdresser, they're like, somebody, they've borrowed it, they're in the library, you've got to, because you know about what you're talking about, you think you're explaining it simply. You're like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
wort or the mash or the fermentation's a bit longer, but like, no, you have to really explain what these things mean. So yeah, it just takes somebody else to actually point that out. Because I'm sure you're obviously very knowledgeable, I guess you'd be wanting to just put in these kind of industry words that you assume everybody else knows about. So yeah, the way you've broken that down and made it not too simple, but easy to understand, but also enough kind of whiskey-based knowledge in there that anybody can pick it up. Like a geek could pick it up and enjoy it, or like a complete novice in the library could pick it up and be like, "Oh, beards, oh, whiskey, oh, curry." So yeah, I think it's a fab little book. So you should be very proud of it.
Absolutely, I think it's one of the things I brought from it is you've made it clear that whiskey's not about the elitist. It's not about only for people who know it or want to know it. It's about those who are dabbling in it as well. And I've said a few times before that nobody sets out to be a whiskey geek. They just kind of fall into it. And
it's one of those things I've been trying to do for years is to try and remove some of that. A friend of mine started a whiskey club here in London 15 years ago, in April this year, 15 years ago. And me and another friend of mine took over a few years back when he moved down to Bristol. And through that whiskey club, we have a range of people who come along to our tastings. And more recently, we've been running our own ones. We've sort of just started up again recently. We're called Whisky Squad. Website, whiskysquad.com. We have 2 tickets left for our tasting next Wednesday. But Canadian whiskey with a real Canadian. But the whole thing is that we've always tried to have an approachable space. And that's one of the things that beat me around the head when I started out. Because I was the archetypal whiskey geek when I started in the industry. I started blogging 2009 because I had just started becoming a bit of a geek and wanted to write something about it. I started working in the industry in 2011 and continued being a geek because we were sitting there, writing descriptions for the Whisky Exchange's website and just being quite geeky because there's mainly geeky expressions coming in. And everything then was a little bit more so. But over time, sort of seeing more of this. And when I started going to these tastings, the groups of people who came in, the example I've always given is there was one of them, Colin Dunn of Diageo, former Diageo fame, brand ambassador all over the UK. He was there just as a punter for the tasting because he's a friend of ours, so he used to come along and just drink. And we had a table of people who had never drunk any whiskey before who would come along for their first ever whiskey tasting. Mm-hmm. And that was the span we often would have in the room. So it was a whole thing of, right, how do you talk about whiskey in a way where somebody who's never tried this before is not going to feel alienated, and somebody who could literally do the tasting better than you isn't going to get bored?
Yeah.
And, that's about the past 10 or so years it is that I've been sort of doing those sorts of tastings and then doing more stuff as part of my day job and freelancing bits and pieces as well. That breakdown of things to try and look at your audience, understand your audience, not scare them. And as you say, every time, try and not assume that everybody around you is a geek. At the same time, though, and this is one of the things that Georgie Bell, now of the Heart Cut, is the person who I think is the absolute queen of doing so. It's that thing of explaining simply. And then when somebody comes in and tries to, out-geek you, she turns around and then goes, "Oh, really?" At which point in time lays on the most ridiculous levels of knowledge and sort of cowers even the most ridiculous geek and sort of like, "No, don't worry. If I need to, I can get there. But I don't need to for the rest of the people, so just be quiet." There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that trying to find that balance. I did it on a podcast a little while back, actually, with a guy called Chris Maffeo, who does an industry podcast all about people in the industry and how to build brands and stuff like that. And it's very much around this, was telling stories and working out the picture of the audience, who to speak to. And the person people always say is people who work in shops. Go to a whiskey shop and see what the people there, how they talk to the customers, because that's what you guys do. I'm going down to one of our shops tomorrow. I go down and do a barrel top. I also just watch what the guys do, what they're interested in, how they talk about stuff, and learn from them. Because it really is that thing of when you deal with people every day. I deal with people online a lot of the time and do tastings every now and again. But if you're working in a shop, working in a distillery, you're getting that sort of like FaceTime with people. That's the way you actually learn how to do that. Juggling and finding the right thing.
I do the same. I like listen to something somebody said, like, oh, I didn't know that, or that was a really good line. And you just absorb it. Whether you mean to plagiarize them or not, you do just end up going away with that one.
I think it's important to be able to do and not be ashamed of doing it. Is if you're a great whiskey taster, or if you're in the company of somebody who tells it in a way, don't be afraid to steal it, or don't be afraid to use that. And if it's we're in the industry, we talk about it all the time, and we hear of a way of presenting something maybe better than we do it. It's like, that's a really good way of doing it. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that because it helps me. Yeah, and I think it's really. Yeah, I don't think anyone would. Yeah, if we started throwing whiskey on the floor out of glasses and stuff, that might be a bit plagiaristic. But there's certain things. But
again, talking about maturation just now, you said you're having a chat with Andrew, and he said this, and that's one of the standard things I do. And I will probably at some point in time now, when talking about maturation, because I talk about it in other spirits, but never really in whiskey that way. I will say I was chatting with some folks on a podcast, and I heard this. Yeah. And it's that whole thing of try and credit, try and do that sort of thing. The stories will change over time. But so I do, as I said, I teach WSET, so Wine and Spirits Educational Trust Level 2 Spirits. Level 3, I'm doing my first one soon. I sat in on level 3 just to make sure I remembered the course properly and see how someone else did it. And Rose Brookman, who's one of the top educators in the world, taught the course. And I sat there, and every now and then she would say something, and I go, wait a minute, I say that. And then I realised that Rose and I were both taught by the same person, Hannah Lamphere, who I now work with. And Hannah's a legend of the bar trade, an incredible educator, and really sort of defined a lot of the way the WSET do stuff. And Rose used to work with her, and me and Rose both talked about things in the same way. We were stealing without realising it from the person who taught us. And you do have that all the way through. But learning, as you say, learning and not being afraid to use it just to make what you're saying better for the people you're talking to. I tell stories for a living. I go around, talk rubbish to everybody. People occasionally believe it's a job, but it's it really is just like working with people and seeing how, and just trying to sort of gather that knowledge, but do it in a generous way rather than sort of like a stealing away or anything like that. It's like sharing and just building on what everybody else does.
Yeah, amazing. Diego's echoing that, saying Rose is amazing.
Yeah, last time one of the times I saw Diego in London a little while back, he was over training with her. So he's had the full in-person Rose experience. So
super. Paul McKendrick has just put a love heart with Glen Talkers. I'm not sure why.
He's just a mad super fan.
He's just like Glen Talkers. Petehead has poured himself SMWS Glen Talkers. There we go.
There we go.
I was going to say, I know Paul's a fan of Glen Talkers, but just to randomly dump it in a chat is it's a bit extreme.
That's definite proper super fan level. I like whiskey from this distillery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremy suggests I should start growing a beard. It is tempting, to be honest, and I think that I've probably got. It's an impressive beard, to be honest. It's a very well maintained beard. It's nice and.
I was going to say it's so neat.
Yeah. This is my quarterly deployment. So I went to Armagnac, and I thought I better vaguely make myself look a little bit smart for the French because I don't want to scare them by looking like a tramp. And so I went to the barbers, and people have been saying in the office like, "Oh, you're very trimmed. Well done there, looking very smart." And I pointed out it's literally every 3 months. I look like this for about 2 or 3 weeks, and the next time I look like this is in September for our whiskey show. I'm going to China in September and doing loads of other things. So I'll have at some point in time to go to the barbers to look vaguely neat rather than some kind of giant fisherman's beard. Yeah, a beard is a lot of responsibility. People don't realise. Yeah.
No, I do. I
Mhm.
totally get that actually, because yeah, I mean, you'd have to, well, because I can't cut like anything straight. So like, how do you, like, if you're looking in the mirror, or you got yours done though, but like, or for you as well, Mike, like, how do you keep everything like not being too low or high on one side? Like, do you like a sort of face
You look
template?
straight on in the mirror, and you work from that. Because
I don't know if I could. I just
I
think it's.
can't do it. No. That's why I find professionals to do this, because
I
also
tend to, yeah.
let's say, have you guys seen
Farm.
Babylon 5? It's a space thing, so probably not Cat. But in Babylon 5, incredible, best TV series almost of all time, fantastic. In it, there's a race of aliens called the Minbari who have like this sort of almost like this helmet sort of thing of sort of a halo of bone around the back of their head. And I can tell how long it is since I've had my hair cut based on how Minbari like I am. The different types of Minbari. So the religious caste have small bony bits, and they have the I forgot what they are. The next one, they got the warriors who are like this, and yeah. So if I get to warrior caste Minbari, it's definitely time to have my hair cut. May not have
Right.
very much hair left, but this bit goes a bit wild on occasion. So yes, but no, there we go. This is the wonders of me before my transformation into my current beautiful self.
I like
Definitely
the
compliment.
idea of having a beard, so you can just kind of sit and like like twirl it and kind of do this, because you kind of
I'm so bad at that. If I'm,
It's
you can
yeah.
always tell if I'm going through a stressful period because I'll sit and I'll just twirl it, and then, but I'll pull out, like, if I see a strand, and this is why from here yours looks very trim and tidy and brushed. When I let my beard grow, it just grows and it goes wild, and I'll just start picking at it and end up with a bald spot. And it's always here because I always lean like this if I'm writing or something, and I'll twirl it, and I'll end up with a bald spot. So if you
it's
see me
this
with a
bit for
bald
me.
spot, I've gone through a stressful period.
Years ago, when I first started growing out a beard, and first time I had a proper beard, I went to a Halloween fancy dress party, which was come as the most scary thing you've ever seen in your life. So I went as Captain Birdseye, with like proper naval jumper on and everything, like borrowed from a friend of mine's dad who was in the Merchant Navy in the 1960s, like a proper scary thing. And I poster painted my beard. I used to have colour in my hair. I used to be dark haired in the ancient times. Sort of vaguely you can see some here, yeah. But so quite dark hair. So I found spray paint hair dye, which is basically just poster paint. So I sprayed my whole lot, and then at the end of the day, I looked in the mirror, and everything was still white apart from this bit here, because I just sat there doing this for the entirety of the thing, and my
Yeah.
hand was covered in white paint, and this one bit of my beard was black. So, oh dear, yeah.
Maybe
Alan
try and
Smith
grow out a
is
beard
asking.
just
Go
for
on.
shits and giggles. I was gonna say I'll maybe just try growing out a beard just for shits and giggles.
Well, I don't know if you were watching the chat, I have promised to Blether that you will have a beard by next week.
Next week, that's I don't know. I mean, I
You
reckon
can buy them. You hook them over your ears. It's fine. Nobody will notice.
fake beards. I might get a fake beard actually. Yeah. Yeah, do you
Well,
know what?
this,
I might just do it just to see what it looks like, and if it's a look, I'll just go with it.
Yeah.
at one point, I have worn a fake beard before over the top of my real beard. This friend of mine who started my whiskey club used to go around the world taking photographs of him in whiskey-rated places wearing this fake beard. And we ended up in Maltstock over in the Netherlands, Nijmegen. And he made me wear the whiskey beard and then took a photograph of me. There's only one picture of it remaining, and that is, if they still have it, on the Master of Malt blog. Because Master of Malt at the time were trying to declare that I was a secret traffic cone thief. It was in the weird early days of whiskey blogging, about sort of like, coming on 15 years ago. I just started working at the Whisky Exchange. I was therefore the enemy, so they outed me as a traffic cone thief. And so it took this photograph of me with a fake beard and photoshopped a traffic cone sticking out my back pocket, a full-size one.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
said back pocket there.
Yeah, it was.
But
It's a very strange picture, but yeah, at the same time, I remember the beard. It was, make sure you get a new one. Do not get a second-hand fake beard, because this one smelled terrible. So, brand new fake beard, you'll be fine.
okay. Yeah, do you know what? I'll probably just work it into the chat next week. Just give it a go.
Yeah.
Might suit me, to be
It's
honest.
always good to have props to just accidentally put on when nobody's watching.
Yeah. What was it? Paul McKendrick turned up in a edible bra one night because of talking.
Do you know what's even funnier? Is my internet froze just then, and then when it came back, you had a fish head.
For various reasons, I do have a full-faced fish head mask on my desk at all times.
That's
People may know
terrifying.
what's going on. It's a very, very niche group of people in the whiskey industry who will understand that. But anyway, moving on.
I love your room because it's like Mary Poppins handbag. You just keep leaning down and picking up like the most amazing stuff. You're like,
Well,
ooh, here's some Lego. Ooh, here's a fish head.
this is my spare room, and during lockdown, I got a spare bed in here because I thought if we were ever allowed to have people in again, I might have people come and stay with me because people just slept on my sofa. So I cleared out a load of stuff, and I bought a bed that was almost exactly about this high underneath. I couldn't possibly tell you why that was. I have basically hundreds of bottles of beer underneath this sort of double bed in the corner now. But part of that was I mapped out the room and had to make sure there was enough space to get out with bookcases and things like that. And so I have like this little cocoon in this corner, which is just full of stuff. Because when I'm working, I can't be bothered to get up and wander around. I've got a dodgy knee, so I try and do minimal movement as much as possible during the day. So just down the side of me here at the moment, I've got a copy of an Armagnac magazine. I've got the Malt Whisky Yearbook, because you should always have a copy of Malt Whisky Yearbook within easy reach.
Yes.
Now I've got the bookcases here for the books I grab more regularly. I've got a collection of fountain pens and fountain pen inks down on this side, just in case. There we go. I've not got 2025 yet. I've got a podcasting microphone for some reason just sat there, but I'm not entirely certain why I have. I was going to try and use it tonight, but it doesn't work very well at the moment. So it's just that all the things I use vaguely regularly are just like nearby. In my little cocoon, so I don't have to move very far while I'm working. I'm a hoarder and collector of stuff, so there's a lot of stuff around.
So a lot of those things I can see as being quite useful. The fish head, however.
Well, actually, that's because in the little bit over there, I've got a bin, and I've got like a couple of bits where I haven't finished tidying up yet, and the fish head was just sitting on the top of the pile, and I was like, oh, I forgot I had that nearby. I haven't done Zoom calls with the appropriate people for a while, where I'd normally have to go and fetch it. So, he just lives over there because that's where all the weird stuff goes.
Jeremy Watt is at home. He's asking. He's watching on Facebook. The Speyburn salmon. He's commenting.
It may be something to do with the fact that Speyburn is a very serious distillery and should not be made fun of at any time.
Okay.
For various reasons, I can't go any further than that in a public forum. But anyway, moving on.
This is the second time this has come up in conversation that I've been involved in this week.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's Louise last time.
Very, very serious distillery. Yeah. Sorry, just found the thing I was looking for. Because I say I've got these very weird things knocking around. I've got an inflatable Liam Gallagher, which has been inflated since Select magazine was still a magazine that worked.
Jesus.
It's just this is ancient air in here, and I'm now afraid to open it just in case. Maybe a pre sort of like smoking ban air, so it's going to be full of nicotine and stuff. I don't know.
Also, you have to blow into the back of Liam Gallagher to inflate him. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, to be honest.
Nor am I really, and I've had to do it at least once.
That's probably worth a small fortune during the reunion year.
This is the thing. I've got all these. I found my little Armagnac thing. There it is.
That's lovely.
But I've got so many around. I've got just piles of stuff and notebooks, and it's that thing of I've been in this flat now for 17 years, I think. And I've just accumulated things. Just off camera, I've got a little shelf with notebooks on it, and underneath it, I've got 20 odd little notebooks like this, all of which are dated, so that I know where my notes are. And I've got these go back to way before I worked in the whiskey industry, back to first time I got myself a nice notebook. This one's looking a little bit sorry these days. That's 2007.
Is it just general observations? Is it like inspiration? Is it journaling? Is it like your hit list of people that have pissed you off? Like all of the
many
above?
names in here have done. This is just general thoughts from before. This is 4 years before I started working in the whiskey industry. When I used to be a computer programmer, still, I used to be a coder in the City of London. I started writing about booze for fun, and it went on from there. But I've got random essays of stuff in here. I've got a letter to Rick Mail asking him if he's my father because he looks a bit like my real dad, which is a very, very surreal thing to write. I wrote it as we went through Dalwhinnie on the train at the end of a sleeper, on my first sort of sleeper trip up to Scotland. And I woke up, I had no sleep and was quite hungover, and wrote a very surreal letter to Rick Mail. So these ones are all just like random thoughts. As they go on, they become more and more tasting notes, things at distilleries. And I started writing on the side of the books. That's not, none of these are too early. I started writing indexes on the sides of the books of like where I did the notes. So if I ever want to find a thing, I vaguely know what year it was in. I can then dig out the right notebook, and then down the side of the notebook, you'll find, just trying to find one. Yeah, there we go. First time I went to Japan, there's a little block on the side there showing where all my Japan notes are. And yeah, so I do that sort of thing. Just so I have the original notes so I can find them.
Like, I'm really sad. I watch people who do like journals and travel journals on like YouTube. It's just really therapeutic watching them. Like, it makes something really beautiful. I was just like, I want to do that. I want to make a Blether journal because I write weird notes when people are talking. I'm like, oh, I really like what they just said. And then I just haven't got around to doing it. How do you find time to do all this? Like, what's your kind of main passion? Is it the educating? Is it the writing? Like, what do you most want to make time for?
It all sort of comes together, really. The writing I haven't done so much of more recently, just because I've not really had so much of an outlet. We used to have the Whisky Exchange blog and did a lot of writing on there, but that's sort of gone a bit fallow of late, just because we don't have loads of resource to actually do writing, and I've stopped doing it quite so much. So we haven't really filled in the gap because we have so much to write, and we've only got a small team. We have a whole new section now where we're writing essays and explainers and things about different spirits categories. And so this month I'm writing about soju from Korea. I wrote about sake more recently. I've written about Japanese whiskey. I also do things outside of Asia. So I've written about grain whiskey and other bits and pieces and science of distillation. So I'm getting back more to doing writing, but I do a lot of education and tastings and talking to people about whiskey. So tastings. So I have a weird sort of career path. So as I said, I was a computer programmer and I wrote about whiskey for fun. I sort of accidentally got a job at the Whisky Exchange. Didn't mean to. I just tried to get myself into some tastings for free and walked out of a thing I thought was a chat, discovered it was an interview, discovered I'd been offered a job. So took my ridiculous City of London to working in the booze industry pay cut, and have been sort of like writing and talking about whiskey ever since. But part of my job originally was just to write about the products on the website. You know, I'm fairly sure you know the joys of that one. Like, you know, having someone just needs to churn those things out and get out and explain what they are. Yeah. So I did that for years. Started writing bits of blog posts, and on the side, I would do tastings and talk about booze for fun. And I started Whisky Exchange in 2011, and last year, February 2024, they officially said, "Do you want to do that as part of your actual job?" So it took 13 years before it was an actual part of my job to talk about booze and about the company.
And of course, they backdated the pay for all those years that you've been doing it for free.
Yeah, of course they did. Yeah, definitely. Like Maltstock, the festival over in the Netherlands, which I absolutely love and thoroughly recommend everybody go to. Since September, I think it's like around the 12th, 13th, 14th, something like that. I'm going back this year. I've been away for the last 2 years, and there were some COVID years where we did online things instead. But I've been going since 2011, and I love it. It's one of my favorite festivals around the world. But I paid for myself to go to Maltstock, and then when I got there, I ran tastings. And eventually somebody said, "Why are you paying and also doing tastings? You don't need to." Really? Oh, nobody told me that. So just doing it. I was there as a punter, but I was also doing the thing. That transition from me being a whiskey fan who likes talking about it to being actually somebody in the industry has been a weird thing for me to realize, and I have now realized it. And I realize I probably shouldn't have tried to win the quiz so many times in a row at Maltstock. That probably wasn't for me and the other industry folks to win, But yeah, so I can't remember where I was going with that now. But yeah, anyway, no, it's talking about booze. I've literally done it for many years, and yeah, so this past year, I've actually been told to do it as part of my job. So I up in York at the weekend for the York Whiskey Club mini festival. up in Birmingham for the Birmingham Rum Club in a few weeks' time. We got our rum show week after next. I'll be out as well, and I'm just organising tastings and presentations in Manchester before I went to Armagnac just before. So it is running around, and it's a bit of a weird one being an ambassador for a shop. It's weird and brilliant because if you're an ambassador for a distillery or a brand, you have to talk about that one brand.
Yeah.
I'm ambassador for a shop, so I can talk about absolutely everything as long as I say to people, buy it from us.
Yeah.
That's it. So I do have this flexibility to talk about all spirits, all brands, and I try to do as much as I can. It's really good fun. And as somebody who really likes learning stuff and is quite good at remembering whiskey bits, although almost nothing else, it's that thing where I get to sort of share that knowledge and just find people. I thought about being a teacher for a long time, teaching kids. And I realized the reason why I didn't want to do it is I don't want to teach people who don't want to be there. I'm terrible at teaching a class if they don't want to learn. I can't motivate people in that situation. Just something I can't do. However, if you do want to know about it, I can be enthusiastic and get everybody else involved, and that's a thing which I really enjoy doing. And so being an ambassador is basically that. It's teaching people who want to be taught.
Yeah.
And the education stuff I do is people who really want to learn. And that's where I do best. So so the education bit, whether that's actual educating in courses, whether that's talking rubbish on a podcast, whatever, that's the thing I do most of all these days.
We find that we do the Whisky Ambassador course, or I do the Whisky Ambassador course, and it's a great thing for hotels to kind of use for their staff and give them confidence in that. But sometimes in the room, they'll say, like, let's get the whole team trained on it, and you look around the room and there's maybe only 2 or 3 of them interested. So what I try and do at the hotels now is say, look, I'll come and do an introductory course. So it'll only be like an hour or maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours with everyone. From that, I'll see who's interested, who's wanting to go and do the full day course. So it's this little feeder thing that we do, and then obviously the ones that come in, because there's nothing worse, especially in a whole day course. Try to tell people something and they're just like, they just zone out and they're not interested. And I get that. I find it a struggle to without resorting to angry shouting or something.
WSET is 2.5 days, and it's been fine in person. If I'm in person, generally I'm enthusiastic enough, I can pretty much G up most people and get them vaguely interested. But also the courses I do, it's internal people within the company who want to be there, who have asked, can I do this course?
Yeah.
I recently started training bartenders, and because the bartenders are a bit more spread out, we've been doing it online. And I've had a few folks that I very much enjoyed. The guy who turned his camera off despite me asking him not to, and then accidentally, when I said, could you turn your camera back on again, he unmuted himself first and showed he was just sitting there watching telly, and then turned his camera and then paused the movie, then undid his camera and realized he got the wrong way around. And it's folks like that where I'm doing this training for them as a thing we do for our clients. And so the next one I'm doing, it's entirely in person. I can stare down at every single person in the room, and that's a much easier thing. Online is terrible for that. But if you get, as you say, people in the room who don't want to be there, that disrupts it for everybody else. And if you're a teacher teaching kids and people who are being made to do education, that's a skill I do not have, and it's one which I endlessly respect in the people who do it, because it's proper hard work.
It's something I really struggle to do. I hate learning online as well. I can't sit and focus on somebody talking online. I'll be checking emails. I'll be on my phone. I'll be off doing something, or go make a cup of coffee with the camera off and things like that. It's
I struggle remembering anything I've read on a screen. So even when I'm at work and I'm reading emails, or I've got to write it down on a bit of paper first, decide what I want to say back, or if I'm proofreading something, or your notebooks. I've got loads of things.
I have notebooks everywhere. They are there. It's the way I remember things, as I write them down.
Exactly. I've got to have it down on paper, and there's just something really therapeutic about I just like writing. And if I just kind of look at a screen, try and flick into another screen to add a bit of information, it's just gone. I think everybody's got a different brain for learning, though, don't they? Everybody's got that technique for information retention. So
I absorb writing better. I absorb information better if I write it down. But my problem is I always lose things. I always lose notebooks. I've got about 30 started but unfinished notebooks around my house,
Yeah,
right
you
at the shop.
literally left one at Whisky Talks. Remember the barman
Yeah,
came over and was like, "Do you know whose book this is?" Like, yeah, it's Mike's.
yeah,
He
I'm
totally
terrible
leave.
for it.
This is the reason why I have vaguely nice notebooks, although I've now gone for smaller ones because I just have piles of them. I go through them very quickly. But I've got to say, like, years and years of these chunkier ones. And this is actually a notebook you can't get anymore. This is a Guildhall. And Guildhall is my favourite notebooks of all time. They are the only ones of these sort of moleskin style ones that open up perfectly flat without any sort of like breaking or anything. And they're absolutely fantastic. They used to be used by geology students when I was at university because they could also fold them back on themselves perfect like that without breaking the spine. And so they could have a hammer in one hand, hit things, put the hammer down, write some notes. Geology students are weird. I used to hang out with too many of them. But they discontinued these about probably 20 years ago. But these are sort of like, I don't have any left anymore. The last one of these I had, we sent to China from the Whisky Exchange to try and get a Chinese company to replicate them for some notebooks we wanted to make. They made a notebook almost entirely different to it in every single way and didn't return my original one, which was slightly annoying.
Oh
But
no!
but the reason why I buy nice notebooks is because I don't lose them.
Yeah, because you don't
Because I
want to lose.
spend the reason why I have shiny fountain pens is because this one, for instance. So it's my one. Apologies to people who know about the fountain pen thing. I'm slightly obsessed, but this one is handmade by a lady. I think it's Ruth. No, Ruth's different. I can't remember her name. It's Black Robin pens, and once a year she does skateboard pens. So this is from all the broken skateboards in her nearby skate park. She gets them all, strips off the grip tape, glues them all together, turns them into blanks, and so all the layers in there are the various layers from lots of different plywood from skateboards.
That's
And so
mad.
she turns a load of these, and I chose the material for the rest of the pen, and she turned that into a pen for me, and I was on a waiting list for that for 2 years.
A 2 year
So
waiting
I
list.
don't lose that.
Wow. I mean, I literally just steal pens from work because I put them in my hair and forget they're there and just walk home. I was like, oh, I've got another one.
Comes out in the shower. So,
Well, I did go through a phase when I used to have the really big beard of just sort of like,
That's right. So it's worth getting a beard for that. How many things could I stick in a beard? Like I could put, the possibilities.
I do have a friend who has, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he used to have an Instagram account which was just things in Bob's beard. And my mate Bob, his name's Big Bob. He's a huge guy just in general. He's very tall, really bigger than me, way bigger than me across the shoulders. And he has this properly big beard. He used to enter the Great British Beard and Moustache competitions and these sort of things. And so down to here, and he would just post pictures of him with something in his beard. So everything from baubles to pens to a small book, and just whatever you could find around, just post pictures. It was very, very weird, but yeah.
I mean, thank God for the internet, because where would these people be? We just wouldn't know about them if it wasn't for the internet. It's just opened up a whole world of.
to be fair, there are some people that you wish you didn't know about on the internet.
Yes.
Well,
the internet has this, it gives with one hand and it slaps you in the face with the other hand.
Yeah.
That's very, very true. There's been so much comments and chat flying in. Some of it's beard related, some of it's whiskey related.
Oh, dear me. I sort of noticed bits and pieces, but yeah. Oh, so, Reb, I'm very sorry we're out of Kilkerran at the Whisky Exchange. There are the many other fine shops who have it as well. Not as fine as us, but they are fine shops. You should maybe wait until we get some more in stock. If we don't get it, then yeah, go for the other shops. So,
Dave Farquharson has just poured a second IWS Holyrood. Dave, I've just poured my second dram. I am stuck on theme. I've gone for batch 2 of the Virgin Oak. It's good. This is better than I remember. Whereas batch 1 I don't think is as good as I remember. So there we go. We're on an even keel for that.
Yeah, we've got a brand new single cask coming out soon as well. Just to do a bit of plugging for my own brand, but we are this.
Is that the one that I received the other day? No.
Aye, when you came in, yes, the little sample I gave you.
No, the bottle from Fraser, Instadrams, for the opening of the shop.
Oh no, it's not. That's not. He got you the 2009. I wrote on it for you though.
You did. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. And thank you, Fraser, if you're watching, for the present. We haven't opened it yet. So it was filled on the day we opened our new whiskey bar.
Wait, have I just
So
spoiled the surprise? Like I thought you'd opened your present. Do you mean you haven't opened the bottle, or you haven't opened the present because I wrapped
I
it?
hope I haven't opened the bottle. No.
Okay, thank God. I thought I just ruined it all.
I know, no, I
Surprise.
know what it is. But yeah.
No, it's a 2013 bourbon cask. Because, like you, Billy, I am a big fan of a refill bourbon. I love when you can just get the character of the actual, like, you make spirit. I'm all about the bourbons. I'm trying to play around with the sherries a bit more, but I just, you like what you like. So this one is absolutely gorgeous. We're releasing it for the Tall Ships Festival, which is coming into Aberdeen next week. So yeah, excited to get that on the go. And then we've got the Woo Dram clan. We've got their bottling in as well, which is a big old cherry monster. If Diego is still watching, it's like proper. What was that? Sex Dungeon whiskey. One of my favourite. Yeah, one of my favourite expressions that's probably ever come out on the Blether. To be honest, was not expecting Sex Dungeon to appear on the Blether. But I'm also enjoying just how much beards are being spoken about on the Blether tonight as well. It's a fantastic diversity of chats. So yeah, it'll be interesting to get those two whiskies out.
I'm
But
surprised it's taken till 10 past the hour of chatting for the Sex Dungeon to be mentioned after how much we talked about it last week.
I know, right? Well, we had so much else to talk about. We had Lego and we had journaling and we had all sorts. It's
I
been,
missed the Sex Dungeon last week, so I'm feeling very included now. It's very nice. Thank you.
oh, you missed the sex dungeon part. So it was right at the start, and I think Oloroso was likened to sex dungeons. So it was, yeah, it was a vibe. And then, yeah, pretty much for the rest of the night, sex dungeons were mentioned a
Well,
lot.
we've described
So
as a whiskey being a bit dominatrix-like before, because I drank it and I felt that I drank it and it was nice, but I felt like I'd been bad in some way. I was being punished by the whiskey, but we were in the room next door to our HR department, and we very, very quickly shut that down because it started going very, very loud, shouting about dominatrixes, and we realised that we could probably hear through the wall. So
HR are so boring, aren't they? Jeez, oh.
it depends. We got some fairly interesting, slightly spicy HR people, but they're very, 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 very respectable within work hours. But you never
Well,
know.
saying that though, Every Whiskey Shop's wine man, Darren, if he's watching, is an HR man, and he's a very, very lovely man. Very, very interesting as well. So they're not all the same. Just put that as a caveat in case Darren is watching. We do need HR, obviously, as well.
100%. I'm just watching. Poor Reb. Reb zoned out last week when we talked about the sex dungeons, and he's just joined us, and he's like, "Oh my god, I've just come in and we're talking about it again." I apologise, Reb.
We're moving
What I
on.
will say for you is what I'm drinking. If you can find it, is has got the kosher mark on it. I'm not sure if you can see it. It is on there. So try and grab one of these Virgin Oak Glengarry. Absolutely banging dram for you to try it. No more sex dungeons for Reb's sake. He's going to jump ships.
But you'll have to find that online because we don't have it at the distillery, so I can't help you there, Reb. But I think you'll probably find it online somewhere.
A quick comment for somebody in the chat, PX Woodhouse. Yes, I have very much. Oh no, that's. Oh no, there we go. That's my actual book that I was thinking of writing. Whiskey Geek's Guide to Making Whiskey. So that's 2 Pith Supply fantastic notebooks. I very much know them. Worry not. So yeah, this is my notebook about my lovely book I want to write. Currently, this is the first page of the notebook. It's entirely empty. I have not written anything in it yet. No, this company Pith, they're based up in Berwick-upon-Tweed, and they just make fantastic notebooks. This is a brilliant one. And I went and made this myself at a workshop, and they had all the offcuts of all their covers, and we made notebook covers and put the whole thing together. So
I love that. I love how much you love a notebook. My sister-in-law made me a leather journal. I was going to see if I could find it to show you because I think you'd appreciate it, but I don't know where it is. So, yeah, I love your notebook obsession. That's amazing.
Love it. So one of the many, don't worry.
So I was looking on you've got your own website as well, which I was having a quick look at earlier. So you do like a lot of writing that you put up on there as well. I think the article I started reading about was Japanese whiskey. Is that like a particular interest of yours, or is just all kind of booze a particular interest of yours? Because anyway, you totally get the vibe that you just love to learn, which is such a great thing because there's so much to learn in the world of booze and how it's made in different cultures and drinking cultures. But what sort of is your kind of passion projects?
Japan's a really big thing. So since I was a kid, I've been absolutely fascinated by Japan, just in general. I first went in 2020, so it took me a little while to get there. And it was in February 2020, and I came back and they shut the country down behind me, and I couldn't go back again for another 4 years. And I went back again.
Did you go with the fish head?
No, the fish head stayed behind, although John Beach from Fiddlers in Drum and Drocket regularly takes the fish head with him. He's got his own one, obviously. Takes the fish head with him when he goes to Japan, and it wouldn't be a Chichibu Whiskey Festival if there wasn't a video of John dancing somewhere while wearing a full fish mask. So, ever since I was a kid, so I was a big manga fan back in the day. Very much, I didn't have my own video recorder or my own telly, so when I was a kid, so I couldn't watch anime. There's very, very little bit available over here, very little manga. I went through all of that over the years. Then became obsessed with Japanese culture, and then when I moved into the whiskey world, obviously, obsessed with Japanese whiskey. These days, I've gone a bit further than just whiskey. I do occasional bits of work with some organizations in Japan to talk about Japanese spirits. So I have a big pile of random badges, which of course I have within easy reach because everything. I have this lovely little shiny metal thing there. That's my Awamori Jimbana badge. So Awamori is a spirit made in Okinawa, the island's right in the south of Japan, and they make a spirit which is a little bit like shochu, which is made in the rest of Japan, but not quite the same. It's quite similar. Maybe it should be the same thing, but they don't like calling it the same thing. I've done some work with them, and that was a training I did over lockdown. I was awarded this thing as somebody to tell everybody about Awamori. I teach people about shochu. I've done courses in shochu. I went back to Japan last year, went down to Kagoshima again in the south. I really like the south of Japan, and just again learned loads and met loads of Japanese whiskey people, and sort of went around and did stuff just to learn more about Japanese culture and Japanese spirits, because whiskey is one thing. They do so many other great drinks there as well. Sake, shochu, Awamori, but even the liqueurs, yuzu is my favorite thing at the moment. I'm diabetic, so I'm not really allowed it because it's got stacks of sugar in it. But yuzu is one of my favorite fruits of all time, and yuzu with a bit of rum in it, it's basically instant daiquiri juice. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, but Japanese whiskey especially, I've been working with for a long time and talking about for a long time, and it's one of the things I know quite a bit about. But there's so many distilleries popping up. I'm just way behind because I'm trying to keep up with everything around the world. So Ireland, I'm now massively behind. England, I'm massively behind. Back in the day, I consider myself an expert in whiskey until the second distillery opened, at which point in time I was screwed, But yeah, it's so much going on now. It's difficult to keep up with everything. But but Japan, and I'm up to, where's my phone gone? I'm up to day 895 on Duolingo of trying to learn Japanese.
Oh, amazing.
I do not speak Japanese. I can't tell you how to say I do not speak Japanese in Japanese. Ego o hanashimasu. That means I speak English. And Nihongo o hanashimasu means I speak Japanese. But that's a lie. So, actually, wait a minute. Nihongo o hanashimasen. I think that might be right. That might be how to say I don't speak Japanese.
I mean,
anyway, I'm not great after almost 900 days of learning. So I can speak tiny little bits. But
these apps, so my wife and I, during lockdown, started learning Scots Gaelic on Duolingo. And we thought it would be great because if we both learn it, we could have little conversations with each other in front of our friends and they wouldn't know anything. That was kind of the idea. I gave up. I'm terrible, like I said, of learning online. She still does it. She must be up to 4 years or something of her daily streak. But if you ask her, it'll take a while. But and I think language is something you need to be in conversation. You You're not going to learn it on a phone. You're not going to learn it. You have to be talking to people. And I think that's what's missing from these apps. Is even if there was there maybe is like a Duolingo StreamYard where you can jump in and speak to people in the language.
Well,
Maybe
it's the
that's
thing I've been looking into more. Is because I want to try and learn Japanese, and also I was over in Armagnac and realizing I used to be borderline fluent in French, and I spent a week listening to people speaking French, and by the end of it, I was starting to remember it again. And it's that whole thing of being immersed, learning. I was in a cab, and the guy said something or other, and I said, je parle un peu de français, and he was like, oh, why don't you speak it then? It's like, because I can't remember the words. He's like, I speak English. Just speak French, and if you forget a word, say it in English. We'll just do this for the next 15 minutes while I'm driving you somewhere. I have 15 minutes of speaking in broken French. You tell me the words, and every now and again you say, what's this word in French in English? And I say, I think it's this. And you say, oh, thank you, I've forgotten that. And you say it's that chatting with people, and there's loads of groups where you can find, just log on and just have a chat in a foreign language, all over the place. If you look around, you'll find a Scots Gaelic group, especially up with you guys, up in that part of the world. There's loads. You just like turn up, have a few drinks, talk rubbish to each other, and there'll be somebody there who knows a bit more than you who helps you out, and then you'll help somebody else out.
Do you know there is
trying to find time to do it. Sorry.
You know, Alan Bremner, Mike, who is a regular at the shop. He does this. He sits in like once a week or maybe it's once a month or something, and it's people who video call in or whatever, and he helps, like he's a tutor, and they do like conversational Gaelic. You should ask him about it for Tony, maybe potentially as well. I was trying to remember who it was when you guys were talking. I was like, it's definitely somebody we both know, and it is. It's Alan Bremner. So next time he's in the shop, maybe ask him and see if he can get you guys in the group. Yeah,
absolutely. Callum is asking Billy, what dram would you choose to go with orange drizzle cake? He's been multitasking tonight and will be out of the oven in half an hour. Ooh. He's thinking of hiding a piece in his beard.
Wow.
That's if you've got a beard you can hide cake in, that's a good beard. I've got a friend of mine who, when we were at school, he was the guy who the first able to grow a beard at the age of 16. It was a crap beard, but he grew a beard anyway.
Yeah.
And famously, he shaved it off the day he found a piece of food in his beard. Because he's like, nope, I can't do that. I can't be handling food in my beard situation. Shaved the whole thing off. Has been clean shaven ever since. It was a small piece of tuna, and that is not a thing you want to find in your beard.
No. No, that's put me off wanting to grow a beard now.
Yeah, well, I say get a fake beard, put it on, beat it with a stick afterwards when you're done. Get the food out of it, put it in the drawer.
Back step just to give it a bit of a dust.
Bit of Febreze, you're fine,
So I once made the mistake of Febrezing my hair because I'd been at a bonfire and we had then our water had gone off that night. And I was like, I can't go to work smelling like this. I was like, what happened to put Febreze in your hair? So I've got a lot of hair, and it just. You remember? Have you seen the Bridget Jones film when she's in the car that's like got no roof? What do you call those cars?
Convertible.
Like convertible, and like her hair just goes massive. So like this is what my hair was like all day, just smelling of cotton, like linen, cotton fresh, and about 6 foot wide. So lesson learned: do not put Febreze in your hair. Also, very flammable. So not.
I was going to say, I thought that's where that story was going. You went out the back fire, the smoking area, and
combusted. But I do work in a very combustible environment, so it probably wasn't the safest idea. So I probably won't do that again. So yeah, what would you?
Used to have a lot of hair. I used to have a gigantic, fluffy, sort of almost like Afro style haircut, which you can't really tell. I didn't have a beard, but I just had big, fluffy hair, and I lost the front of it many times back in my days when I used to smoke, because it'd be very much a case of, oh, that flame's a bit big. Oh, and I've just lost my fringe yet again. It's not really a fringe; it's just all the fluff at the front just disappears very, very quickly with a lighter. So yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Jeremy is saying we always learn useful facts on the Blether. Absolutely, Jeremy. I will never freeze my hair because of Kat's influence there.
Don't ever Febreze your hair. We never answered Callum. What would you pair with his cake? Or did we answer it? No, we didn't. Did we not?
I don't think we did.
No, I'm still trying to think. I was going to go with, of course, the classic pairing with an orange is Glenmorangie, obviously. Although now they changed their label to say Glenmorangie on it.
I know. Just confuses people. I think they do it so they can tell people they're wrong.
But having been in so many rooms with Glenmorangie brand people over the years, where they specifically said it's Glenmorangie, it rhymes with orangey, and it's a bit orangey, and they go brilliant, yes, and they come up with this. The new branding looks fantastic, but it's just like, wait a minute. After all these years of effort that me and other people have put in, and you have done all of it just by splitting up the word wrong. I think they have unveiled it at an event I was in a club in London, and they talked about Glenmorangie being said right, and then they played the film, and then all the PR people just looked suddenly very, very embarrassed that they mixed two events together they probably shouldn't have done.
Dear. Reb is saying you can't become a community rabbi in the Jewish Federation without a beard. In the London Jewish Federation without a beard.
So I know loads of Jewish guys in London, and I've done tastings for them over lockdown. There's a big South African Jewish diaspora in London randomly. And a friend of mine used to organise tastings for them, charity tastings. I did a few of them. They're brilliant. And one day said, right, I can get you in. I work at the Jewish Learning Exchange in Golders Green, and I'll get you in for a tasting on the Sabbath when we have our gathering, we do shul, and we eat together and everything. Why don't you come and do a whiskey tasting? And I turned up, and he'd used this picture, the same picture on the bottle of whiskey of me going with a really big beard. And I turned up, and the first thing that every single person said when they met me was, "Oh, we thought you were a rabbi." So I had the beard. Unfortunately, I'm not Jewish, so I fail at the first hurdle, really. Well, maybe the second hurdle. I'm not sure how important the beard is in comparison to being Jewish. But I've been asked if I'm an Orthodox priest, and I've been asked if I'm a rabbi. But not at the moment. I'm very much too trim currently. So
there you go. The power of a beard. We just keep learning more and more about beards. Like, who even needs that book that the library had? I think we've just sorted it all out ourselves. I feel actually like quite lacking. You two are both bearded up. I do feel quite naked around the face. I don't know. I'm gonna have to
just take down your hair and wrap it like a scarf.
Put a Sharpie.
I could not possibly comment on whether in a previous time when I used to have pigment in my hair and my beard may have been dark and I may have missed a bit or gone too close. I definitely haven't coloured in my face with the Sharpie. I definitely haven't.
There was, who was it? Was it Alan Smith had said that he told his kids that brushing his teeth, and that's why he's going white around the side of his beard, is because he brushes his teeth and it dyes your beard white. I think that's a great excuse. I'm going to use that because I'm starting to get a few whites coming through.
You'd be like chili salt.
Salt and pepper.
Yeah.
It is a sign of wisdom and distinguishedness, as I have been saying for the past 20 years. So,
Definitely.
Did you just pour yourself another dram there, Billy?
I'm just topping up my my highball, so it's all good. So, unfortunately, I don't have. I was about to say I don't really have any whiskey in here, but I looked over and realised I've just got all these random samples just sat on my desk, obviously. But yes, there's nothing here which is the perfect accompaniment for my too hot evening highball at the moment.
Yeah, this is it. Sometimes if it's very, very hot, you don't always want to sit and have a dram, I guess, do you? But you can't go wrong with a nice highball.
Unfortunately, I don't have any proper soda water at the moment, so I'm drinking Misawari, so just with ice and cold water. But I'd say on the Japanese spirit side, I thoroughly recommend people at some point, if they get a chance, try shochu highballs. So shochu, fantastic Japanese spirit made from like 50 odd ingredients, but you see rice, sweet potato, barley. It's probably the three we see most of all. Barley is occasionally a bit whiskey-like. Shochu, what's it called? Sweet potato is very fruity, almost like lychee on occasion, often quite funky. Rice is a little bit more sort of restrained, but a little bit of fruitiness in there. Top that up with a load of soda water. Fantastic. If you're in Japan, you'll find lots of chuhai, which are like these cans of this sort of like soda and shochu. But they're the really industrial shochus, which are basically vodka. And so you'll get a grapefruit chuchai, which will be a vodka and a little bit of grapefruit juice and then a load of soda. They're really nice. I may drink them when I'm in Japan quite a lot. But a real shochu highball, when you have soda water and really good shochu, thoroughly recommend. There's a few. We have a few at the Whisky Exchange. There's a few available places like I forgot the name of them now. There's sake shops around and places like that who have a few, but they're really hard to get in the UK. But if you get a chance to try one in a bar, go for it. Really good stuff.
I need to learn more about world drinks, to be honest. There's so much cool stuff out there, but I'm still trying to work my way through all the whiskey. There's still so much of that to go as well. I've paced myself. Do you ever do any judging for any of the sort of spirits competitions and things, like in Scotland or around the world?
Yeah, a little bit. I used to do a bit more, but I don't have time to do quite so much anymore. But I've been doing them. I did competition earlier on this week. I did the American and World Whiskey Masters for the Spirits Business magazine, and I've been judging the World Whiskey Masters since 2012.
Okay.
So yeah, whatever that is now, 13 years, something like that. The late great writer Don Roscoe was editor of Spirits Business at the time, and I met him at a few events, and he dragged me in and said, "Come on, Billy, come and judge. Learn how to judge." And ever since then, I've been judging with those guys. They're really great, and they're a really good place for. I like the way they judge, the way they run their competitions. There's lots of discussion. It's not that everybody writes down their score and there's an average. It's people talk, they explain why they like things, and then we sort of come to a consensus on how good things are based on everybody talking about it. It's really, really fun environment. So yeah, I did that this week, but I judged for the IWSC, which is one of the bigger competitions. And occasionally I judge for the American Distilling Institute, which is a competition that gets me over to San Francisco every few years.
Awesome.
So which is lovely. It's great to get a nice holiday tacked onto the end of doing some judging.
Yeah, definitely.
The big one for me, though, is I'm off to China in September, all going to plan. It's been announced, and they just haven't asked my passport details yet. So I'm hoping I get my visa and all that sort of thing works. But I'm off to China to judge Baijiao, so Chinese spirits.
Wow.
So while I do mostly whiskey judging, I also judge shochu, aomori, Japanese stuff, maybe a bit of sake, but also Baijiao, which is basically Chinese spirits. Which, if you haven't tried them, I thoroughly recommend it. They are slightly crazy and not the same as the things we drink over here.
That's amazing. China. I mean, I'd love to see Japan so much, and China just looks amazing. Like the two sides of it, you've got like that really crazy, hectic sort of city side of it, and then you've got this beautiful countryside as well. There's like kind of epic hills, and it looks like a fantastic country to go and see. Would it be your first time to China? Have you been before?
No. I've been to Japan a couple of times. Never been to China. I'm terrible at traveling. For someone who is so interested in overseas sort of like culture and language and all that sort of thing, until I went to Japan, the furthest I'd been away was either New York or Bulgaria. I went to Bulgaria for a wedding. I used to go to New York for work every now and again in my previous life. But I've not extensively traveled around Europe or anything like that. And yeah, so I planned once to go to Australia, and I had a whole trip planned out. And then my friends whose wedding I was going to go to, I was sharing an office with my mate, who's actually now my landlord, and his wife is now my landlady. They eloped and didn't tell anybody and got married in Tanzania and told everybody they were going somewhere else for the weekend for Colette's birthday. When I came back, I got these frantic phone calls from my friend saying, "Why aren't you in the office yet?" It's like, I'm on my way, leave me alone. Got into the office and he went, "Look, I got married. I thought I'd probably better tell you, considering one of my best mates. Also, could you tell everybody for me, because I don't want to do it? Thanks." And that was my only comment on that was, wait a minute, that's my Australia trip ruined. I don't have a reason to go anymore. And I had originally a trip planned to go to Japan in 2011. I had the whole thing done. 2010, I started planning. I knew what time my train to take me from Tokyo to Kyoto, and then from Kyoto to Yamazaki. I knew the time of the train from Kyoto to Yamazaki a year in advance. And then I quit my job as a computer programmer, and all of a sudden couldn't quite make it over to Japan for a month as my previous plan was. So, yeah, I was going to do a whole Pacific Rim tour, and through Shanghai into Hong Kong, and then Japan and everything else as well. But yeah, so I've never been over, but I'm really looking forward to it. If you get a chance to go to Japan, though, I thoroughly recommend it. It's such an eye-opening place. It's very, very familiar in some ways. It's very, very different in other ways. And if you leave Tokyo and Kyoto and Nagasaki and Hiroshima and these bigger places that people know, the people are so very friendly and helpful. They know that you're not going to speak Japanese. They will try, and if you speak a bit of Japanese and try, they will be endlessly grateful to try and communicate in some way. And they just want to sort of show what they do, because people don't go down to Kagoshima from the UK. There was a Canadian couple and there was me, and we were the only English-speaking people we saw walking around. It's a fairly big town, so there was almost certainly more people there. But in the booze bits, that was it, and it was this whole thing of people kept on asking me, why have you come to Kagoshima on holiday? And it's like, because it's really nice here. And they're like, well, we know that, but how did you know that? Yeah. It was especially good because a volcano erupted when I was there and I didn't notice. So I failed in the one thing. So Sakurajima, this volcano that sits on the other side of the bay from the city, is an active volcano, and it used to have to walk around Kagoshima holding an umbrella because of all the ash that would come down. And I got there and it hadn't erupted for 5 years, I think it was. And I went to a pub and I met this fantastic Canadian couple. We sat there drinking all night, and I went on to go to get some noodles and found a few other bars. Went back to my hotel room. Next morning, I looked at my phone, and while I was in the pub, the volcano had erupted for the first time in 5 years. And there had been a bit of lava and all that sort of fun. Everybody had seen it outside and heard it. Whereas I walked out of the pub and went, oh, it smells a bit farty out here. And that's as far as I got. Next morning, sitting there eating breakfast in the top floor of this hotel in Kagoshima, and I was looking out from my table and went, "Oh, the volcanoes are! Oh, the volcanoes are! Oh, yeah." So yeah, Japan is the sort of thing where that's the sort of thing that happens when I've been there, and I just go, "Yeah, that's the sort of thing that happens in Japan." There's just strange things and familiar things. I sit in a pub and have a chat with a Canadian couple who turns out are distillers, slightly illegally, and told me all about the stuff they made and where they live and everything. And then I walk out, think someone has farted badly outside the thing, and discover I've missed a volcano. So yeah, it's the volcano that I had visited that afternoon in the rain, because they have a boat, a ferry that goes from the edge of Kagoshima to Sakurajima, and they have a noodle bar on the boat. So it's a tiny ferry. It's not particularly huge, mainly for people across this bay rather than the sort of like hour or so, 2-hour drive around it. It's a 15-minute ferry, and they do 500 yen plastic bowls of noodles, of udon. So I missed it last time I was in Japan. I'd heard about it. So I ran downstairs, paid me 500 yen, slurped my noodles up as quickly as possible,
grab it,
jumped out the other side, went, oh, it's raining. Got back on the ferry and came back again. So
I love how British that is as a reference point. Like, you're in Japan and you smell that and you think, oh my God, volcano. You're like British, you're like, oh, geez, someone's farted out here. Like, it's just a different reference point, really, isn't it?
Different culture altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
I'd love to see Japan
I
one
am
day.
quite British on occasion, so.
I'm going to jump off. I'm going to try and grab, because I'm pretty sure I have got a bottle of Japanese spirit, and I can't remember what it is. I got given it by a friend, and he said, you're going to have to try this. And it was one of those, I'll get around to it, and I put it away. And because I'm in the garage, I'm pretty sure that it's around here. So talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back in a second.
I've got some Japanese whiskey, but yeah, it's just on brand. It's just Yamazaki and Hibiki. I think
got empty bottles. It's one of these things. I certain bottles I really like, and I have a bad habit of keeping. I hoard things. I'm a hoarder of stuff in general. So you can't see this direction, and it's quite good that nobody can see this direction, because that's where all the extra notebooks. I've got an empty bottle of Bramble's Affinity cocktail, which they did many, many years ago in Edinburgh, which I brought it home because I really liked the bottle, and it's sat on my shelf for the last 20 years. I say my emergency famous grouse is now old enough that it's mostly evaporated.
It's emergency. What's it like? A sort of
just in case you need some whiskey, I've got this. I've got a fuller one as well these days, just in case. But also there we go. That's an interesting one. That's Famous Grouse from Old One, and that's the new one. That's quite a different color, isn't it?
It's very different, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but no, so I have all these sort of random things I hoard and keep, and I need to do one of those sort of purges where you go through Marie Kondo style and hold everything and say, does this bring me joy? And unfortunately, everything does. But so this is from my first trip to Japan. This is a shochu. I can't even remember the name of the company, and I do not read enough Japanese to be able to spell it out. But it was absolutely fantastic. I remember us turning up, and the reason why I've kept this one is because we turned up, we tried all the guys' shochus, and they're all hand labeled. And he bottled a load of the more basic ones, knowing that we're all a bunch of Brits. Brits? No, UK, US, and Canada. And this one we all like the best. And he went, oh, that's the one that Japanese people normally like, and which foreigners don't. I have bottled it, but I haven't labelled them yet. Can I deliver them to your hotel later? So this is a bottle that he was so impressed that we, as non-Japanese people, liked this shochu, that he drove 45 minutes, an hour to our hotel to deliver a case of it for us to be able to take home.
That's
so yeah, all hand labelled. So I've got lots of things like that, but that's my only Japanese spirit I think I have here. I moved everything else out a little while ago. My weird experimental shochu songs.
Whenever we have Japanese people come to visit us at work, because we're owned by a Japanese company, they always come with gifts. It's the sweetest thing. They'll always be so thankful, and they always thank you with a lovely gift. And even if it's like a box of biscuits they've picked up at their airport, it's always beautifully packaged, and it's just so nice. I love to see that. And you do the whole British thing of no, you don't need to do that, but they, it's part of their culture. They really want to thank you with a gift. So, love it.
No, I've got some fantastic gifts from Japanese visitors, but they're often quite random. And I very much enjoy that sort of random gift thing. I remember as a kid, when we visited people, we'd always take a tea towel from our town and sort of go, thank you very much, people of this place where we're staying. Here, have a tea towel. Next door, though, in the other room, I've got two of the fluffiest hand towels you've ever seen in your life. I've never used them because I'm scared to ever lose the fluffiness of them.
You fluff them.
Like 4 or 5 years. They're just these incredible, teeny tiny sort of just hand drying towels. And they just sit on a pile on the back of something in my bathroom. And every now and again I go, ooh, fluffy. And that was a present from Toshie, who's Hirida, who is the liaison with the WSET in Japan. And she came to visit, and we all went out for a drink to say hello and thank you for this incredible trip she took us on. And she presented us all very formally with 2 very, very neatly wrapped towels. And I've treasured them ever since. So, so we go to Japan, load up on stuff to take with you. So you can, if you do find people and, as a thank you for people looking after you and helping out and things like that, you have something. Whether it is a box of biscuits you bought at the airport, I would say box of Jaffa cakes, packet of Tunnock's tea cakes. There we go. That'll go down fantastically well in Japan. So I've seen some videos of Japanese people eating Tunnock's, and they generally appreciate it. So there we go.
Sometimes it's yes, it is though. It's sometimes the biscuits they brought us it was knickknacks, and each tray had these different types of knickknacks, but they're all really weird flavors, I don't know, just really salty, savory, almost fishy flavors. You're this one's green. What do we think this one will be? And it's good fun trying it because we don't speak Japanese. We're we have no idea what we're eating, but yeah, just really cool, quirky stuff they arrive with. Did you find your bottle, Mike, of your Japanese? Oh wow!
This is
well.
What is that? It's like a monk.
Is there a label on it anywhere? Is it just
this is all I have on.
It's 30%. That's almost certainly going to be a shochu. I don't read enough Japanese to be able to tell you the rest of it.
This is all. It may be not Japan. It may just be an Asian.
I say it looks fairly Japanese with the characters. So
I'm pretty sure it is Japanese. It's really. I just had a little. I didn't venture too much into it. It's really quite fruit, grappa-ish, really sweet and fruity. Pleasant. It's nice. Took me by surprise. I thought at 30%. I checked that 30%. I thought, okay, it's going to be almost liqueurish, but it's not. It's It's
Well,
quite
the thing is that they for shochu, they just for honkaku shochu, which is they have different grades, and so they have the stuff which is basically vodka, and they have honkaku shochu, which is like the malt whiskey as opposed to the grain whiskey sort
right.
of thing. And so that's 55% and below it has to be distilled to. And so if it's honkaku shochu, then they often will then drop it further to 25 or 30%. If it's 25%, if you do it half and half with water, you have something the strength of wine. If you do it 3-1, you have something the strength of beer. And they always drink it diluted pretty much. And so it's just to make it easy for dilution for drinking strength. So yeah, 30%. Interesting
Right.
stuff. They don't generally age in wood. They'll age in clay as well. And you would think clay doesn't add anything. It doesn't. It just allows it to really, really change and do lots of interesting stuff. So
What's kind of intrigued me is the cork. Is just this little, what looks like tinfoil.
So Japanese closures are just weird.
Yeah.
The bottles often have like massively sharp shards of metal that come off it when you open it, and you have to be careful not to slice your hand open. And,
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah. They were using synthetic corks for everybody else, but no, that's a really cool bottle.
And it comes with this little string as well. You
Just
could
take it with
almost you could almost get away with taking that to a wedding like a purse and just yeah, scooping it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
I saw a couple of questions pop up, including from the lovely Alex, the whiskey loving pianist, who he's asked in there whether I've tried the Artful Dodger shochu. I have tried both of them. I have a bottle of one of them next door. They're not shochu by Japanese law. Japanese regulations are amazing. They are so differently focused from most booth regulations around the world. So for whiskey, for shochu, the main thing is you can't be too dark. And so the color of the spirit can't be too dark. And so the ones that Artful Dodger have bottled, both of them, I think it's only 2 of them, they're both really dark in color. You can't call those shochu in Japan because they're too dark. As far as I can tell, and this may be entirely wrong, I need to speak to some more Japanese people. So every time I say things about Japanese spirits, I go speak to someone from Japan and they go, no? Who told you that? My favorite one being Japanese whiskey is designed to be drunk with food. No, that was a marketing campaign from Suntory, which they abandoned many years ago. However, you can still buy pints of Suntory Highball on tap in Japan to drink with the yakitori, but that's a different matter. But yeah, so the reason why those shochus aren't available in Japan is because they're not legally shochu in Japan. However, there's no legal definition of shochu in the EU and the UK for the laws we're currently using, the old EU ones. So consequently, they can call it shochu because it is a Japanese shochu, but doesn't quite meet the regulations. And you see that in the US as well, but the other way around, they bottle aged shochu as whiskey. Because in the USA, you're allowed to use koji, which is the mold they use to churn the starches in the carbohydrate, the raw material, so the rice, the shochu, the sweet potato, whatever, barley. They use a mold to turn that into sugar rather than malting. And so you can do that in American spirits, but you can't do that in Scottish spirits. So you can't sell it as whiskey over here, but you can sell it as whiskey if you make it with grain and koji in Japan and then sell it in the USA. I've got a friend of mine who imports whiskey called Takamine into America. It's excellent. It's really, really good. However, it can't be sold as whiskey outside of the US. And you can't sell it as shochu in Japan or whiskey in Japan because whiskey, you're not allowed to use koji. The regulations are just all messed up and weird. So, yeah, so the ones which are available from Artful Dodger, they're not shochu by regulation. And unfortunately, the casks on them have taken over. They're great drinks, but they're all the cask. They're no longer really any shochu character in there at all. They just tasted really good sherry cask, which is no bad thing, but it's not what I want. There's another one of PX Woodhouse says, are there any RTD highballs available? Many. You can now find a load of them out there. There's some good ones. There's some terrible ones, but there's also some good ones. So I think the M&S ones are half decent if they're still doing them. So not too many branded ones. I say, Mike, you might know more about that because I don't know if you've had any of them in for the shop.
RTDs, no, it's not really something we do anything with. So Um, we've dabbled. We've just taken in some new sakis, and we've
Cool.
taken two sakis and sparkling sake as well through Marusha beverages.
Akashitai. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If you ever get a
So
chance to get Bruce Perry up to see you guys, Bruce is absolute dude. He is very much a sake expert, and he's taught loads of friends of mine sake courses. Have a chat with him.
right,
He's
he
brilliant.
kept. He's retiring this year, I think, or retiring
Really?
ending. Yeah.
Oh. I'll
Maybe
have to
that has
drag him out
been.
for another tasting at some point in time before that happens.
He's so Bruce hosted our first Torre tasting. It was mainly Mossburn, but they had the 2017 Torre out. So that must have been one of our first after lockdown, I think. Bruce came up and did the tasting and accommodated us very well over at Torre when me and my wife went over to Skye. So yeah, got a lot of time for Bruce, but I'm pretty sure he's on the wind down now.
Oh, I say
Sorry
he's
if I
earned it.
just announced something that wasn't meant to be.
He's been doing like all that stuff in Mauritius over so many years, and working in
Yeah.
the booze industry way longer than the most. And at the same time, just being really great at it. As I say, he's somebody who has introduced sake probably to more people in the outside of the folks from Japan who've come over. When it just comes to regular, folks from the UK, he's probably done more with sake than most people out there. Really, really top chap.
I kept that under his hat. I'll have to reach out and see if we can do something.
We need to
Yeah.
get him on the Blether as well if he is retiring. I'm just away trying and turning their light on because I can see that I'm just disappearing into the darkness. Give me 2 seconds.
That's the point. I see if my technology's working. Alexa, desk lamp on. Oh, sorry, I have my meter changed. Oh no, there we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, she's just on a go slow. She was sunbathing there. She had to get in off the lounger to turn on your light.
No, I'm incredibly lazy and love automation. So consequently, I have my whole my whole flat's wired up, and Alexa tells me many things and turns my lights on and off and all that sort of thing.
I just get frustrated with Alexa because we have our light set up to Alexa to say, Alexa, turn the light on, and she'll say okay, and then nothing happens. And you're like, Alexa, turn the light on. Okay, nothing happens. Alexa, will you please turn on the effing light? Sorry, I don't know that. Yeah, because the effing light isn't in her program. She knows kitchen light. She knows living room light. She knows main light. She doesn't know where the effing light is.
No, the only one I have a problem with at the moment is this lovely light bulb here, which during lockdown I did lots and lots of online things, which is the reason why I have the podcast mic there, where I have randomly a camera mount still stuck to my desk, even though I'm not using the camera anymore. And so I needed some lighting. So I tried ring lights and things like that. And eventually I discovered that a cheap bulb that changes color stuck into my lamp, controlled by Alexa. Actually, someone just commented, Alexa, turn on disco lighting. I can't do that via Alexa, but my light bulb does do party lighting. So, yeah. It's
Alexa,
stupid.
turn on party light to Billy's desk lamp.
I've got an earpiece. So, yeah. It's a glorious thing of shouting, Alexa, do a thing over a phone call and see somebody's house sort of like catch fire. It's a glorious thing. So, oh dear me. Where's my? Oh, we go, desk lamp. And if I do this and I go to where? Look at that. There we go.
Oh, look at that. Cat's going to come back. She's missed something dramatic when you're.
Oh dear. This is. I haven't played this for a long time. I should not be playing. Oh, we just changed colour. Sorry, that's enough of that. Right. Let's go back to again. Thank you. Sorry. As you may notice, I'm quite easily distracted at a moment's notice. You may have seen that now.
I mean, if you're part of the Blether, you'll notice we are too.
all the best people are.
Cat, you're back, but you've just missed a disco. We had a little disco in Billy's room.
I missed all the good bits. Well, I thought while I'm up, I was well going to powder my nose. So yeah, turning into Russell. I've just got to pee halfway through every week.
Unfortunately, my disco lighting mode requires music, and Well, Ian Allen popped up a little while ago and said, talk about music, then disappeared again. I will not put on a variety of random music and then start holding this next to the speaker somewhere to try and get the lights to change. But yeah, are they?
Well, do you know what? Let's just get a disco on. Just get some beats going. Like, why not? We haven't done that yet. I mean, music does seem to work its way into the Blether most weeks, but ooh.
100%.
Oh, turn it off now. There we go.
You're kind of matching. You're matching your bottle. Like your face was going a bit purple there. So yeah, you're kind of.
The problem I have with that whiskey, that label. So that label was put together by a friend of mine called Steve. We every year we do whiskey show bottling. So our show's September, October time. One of the biggest in the UK, one of the biggest in Europe, and we do just bottlings to celebrate different things in the industry. So we've done everything from sort of weird 3D labels, which sort of like did strange things when you move them around, to things with infrared, UV torches. And this time we decided to ignore all that and just celebrate people in our company. And so we chose 9 people across the business. Some people like me, people know, but folks like Karina, who runs our customer service team, and Polly, who quietly runs one of our shops, although she's just gone from maternity leave. And Jason Baswani, who's our old and rare buyer, but a few people know him, he's getting out there. And so we chose these 9 people, 3 labels for each of 3 whiskies, and they did them in the style of, because I've been told the Warhol estate is particularly litigious. So it's in a pop art style, nothing to do with Andy Warhol, a pop art style. And so Steve, the guy who did it, went through and found different Warhol pictures, took the color schemes, and then created those pictures out of photos of all of us to look like screen prints. My one is the colors of Marilyn Monroe, the famous picture he did of Marilyn. My friend Alex, his picture is the same colors as Chairman Mao. He's not quite so pleased. But the thing I have, if you want to hold up that bottle, if you look on the label, there's 2 things which are really annoying. One is on the top, he's drawn hair, like little fluffy bits of hair on top of my head. Yeah. I've not had hair on top of my head for a very long time, since way before that photograph was taken. For some reason, he just added fluffy hair on. And the other bit is, on the side of my neck, he's added this huge lump.
Oh, yes, actually. Yeah. You do look like you've got a sort of glandular cyst.
A goiter or something like that, sort of thing. And I say to him, Steve, what do you say? I don't know, mate. So anyway, so the picture is fantastic to have my face on a bottle, but at the same time, Steve has added hair and a weird lump on my face. Yeah.
Maybe just not that face.
But,
how was the whiskey, Cat? You didn't say how it was. You said.
So I haven't. I actually forgot to get a glass again. I didn't want to tell anybody online. I'd forgotten to get a glass again. And I've literally been for a pee and forgot to get a glass. So I was hoping nobody was going to ask me, but I'm going to try it when I go and get a glass at some point.
Yeah. You can pop the cork and just...
I can't glug it. It's not my bottle. I can't glug straight out somebody else's bottle of whiskey. Here you go. Here's your whiskey back. I'm a slavers.
If people want to try it, it's one of those things where at the whiskey show, people bought it because they met me, they saw me pouring the bottle, and they went, "Oh, I'll get a bottle with Billy's face on." If you go to a website and you see a load of bottles with people's faces on and you don't know who they are you going to buy a bottle? And so whenever I go and do tastings, I always take a bottle of that along, because it's great whiskey. It's properly oily, dirty, sort of engine oily, sort of Ben Nevis. And people try it and go, "Oh, I like that. I'll get a bottle with your face on." But there's 3 of us with our face on that bottle. There's me, Dawn, our head buyer, and Alex, the guy who manages all of our shops. Whenever they do tastings as well, they take a bottle of their one along, and people go, "I like the whiskey. I want to buy it because, I've met you, and this is the thing I know."
Yeah.
But the problem we have is for the people who don't get out and speak to people quite so much, they don't have a chance to say, "Look, see me, drink my whiskey." During the whiskey show, we went around pouring for people on the floor. We had a bottle in our pockets each. And Alex, our shop manager, would just run up to people with a bottle and just sort of like in their face and suddenly just go, "Taste my face." And so very quickly, the hashtag "Taste my face" with pictures of Alex going became a thing. And so Liz, our former brand director, who was also walking around with a bottle and pouring it for people came to her and say, "Oh, taste your face," and she's like, "No, no, that's as our brand director, I can't have that happening. We can't have taste my face as a hashtag." Alex and I have repeatedly told everybody to put hashtag taste my face every time anybody tries it and posts a picture of it.
I like
Yeah,
that.
unfortunately, Liz left a couple of months back, but I hope that from time to time she sees a picture of a bottle with her face on it go past with hashtag taste my face in the
Taste my
corner of it on Instagram.
Yeah, that's an awesome hashtag.
Yeah, dear. They came out the way the best ones do, entirely by accident and entirely against the person in charge of branding.
Well,
That's
do you know, yeah,
ones.
quite often, yeah, the best idea is just because we say this every single week. Like the guys will come up with like a fantastic one-liner, or we were, it was when we had Paul Dempsey on. We were trying to rename teaspooning, and we had some
No, it's
very
Kenny McDonald.
yeah. Sorry, what did I just say? Yeah, it was Kenny McDonald. Yes, because he fell off his seat. But I can't. So one of them was so good, and I can't remember what it was. It was really hard to come up with a new one because we're like, oh, there must be a better name. And the more we tried, like, no, there's not really a better name actually. But yeah, sometimes it just takes somebody random to just come up with something a little bit inspirational. Keep
I
your
will
slate.
say though, on the Paul and Kenny thing, I thought Paul and Kenny were the same person for many years, and they both know this. And then I went to a whiskey festival in Poland, as the Jastrzębie Dom Whiskey Festival. I was helping out a brand and doing some stuff. Then I walked into this tent, and Kenny and Paul were on the same stand, and I was like, "Wait a minute, you're not the same person." They don't look that much like each other. They're both big guys with beards, sort of thing. But as a big guy with a beard who's been mistaken for many other people in the past, sort of thing, I felt very bad about it. But I'd never seen them at the same time, and I just bumped into them at different things, only very briefly, and so didn't really know them. I was absolutely certain they were the same person in my brain, and I didn't know what the name was at all. And yeah, I felt like an absolute idiot. So they are quite used to it. It's not a thing that is new for them. So.
Well, you only ever see the top of Paul Dempsey's head, though, so nobody really knows what the bottom half of his face looks like.
I know.
He and I have been sort of like both attempting to do similar things over the years. So, but he is definitely the master of it.
The whiskey's most famous forehead, isn't he? Absolutely. So Paul is on. So I was wondering what I was going to pour for my next dram, and I have got a Glenallachie from Lady of the Glen, an older package. It's a 13-year-old Marsala wine finish. So I was just rinsing out the sake there, and it's. I mean, when we talk about don't judge a whiskey by its colour, sometimes these kind of guys are absolutely the ones to look out for, because on a shelf, I remember this bottle coming out, and I remember it sold because of the Glenallachie name, and a lot of people were really intrigued because Billy had just kind of launched it as a brand and that, but it was still one of the slower sellings purely because it looks like a white wine.
It's one of those things I spend a lot of time doing, is telling people about how colour is important, but not that important as well. So how old is that one?
13.
13, yeah.
13-year-old.
Refill casks, that's what it's all about, the best whiskey.
Yeah. Bourbon Hogshead, ex-Marsala wine cask finish. From Sicily.
Yeah.
65.1%.
Wow. Jeez, oh.
Yeah. I get told off for leading lots of whiskey tastings with that type of whiskey. I do lots of things where, we go for the light whiskey to start with and it's 60+%. And I suddenly go, oh, sorry, I keep on forgetting that not everybody drinks, high strength, cask strength whiskey all day, every day. Oh, dear me. Sorry to that person in the corner who lost an eye. I do apologize.
I've had that, and it's something I've had to kind of relearn in terms of premium. If somebody asks for a premium whiskey tasting, this is the kind of thing I would go for like a cask strength, single cask, something maybe 17, 18, 19 years old as a standard. But then I realised that the group are maybe new to whiskey and they want the premium experience rather than the premium whiskey. So, kind of 40% to 46% is probably more the range, but they maybe want a bit more detail in it. So we've learned that sometimes the hard way, saying, okay, because you put in what you and I would think is a great whiskey, Glenallachie, Glendronach, hand fills and whatnot, 18, 19, 20, 30-year-old or whatever. You get really excited about it because it's banging whiskey. And then somebody take a taste, oof, that's hot. It's really strong. We're used to drinking 40%. And you're like, okay. Yeah, you have to kind of convert everything. So, right, let's bring out more water, more pipettes, more jugs, and then let's recalibrate a little bit.
So I've been speaking to a mate of mine at work a load about this past week because so he's doing a barrel top down in one of our shops tonight. It's summer whiskies. I chose the whiskies because originally I was going to do it, but then something else came up this evening, which I thought I'd probably do instead. And so he's down there sort of pouring whiskey, and we both looked at the lineup and both realised there was nothing there below 56%. And it's like, well, as a shop, and you do the same thing, and Paul at Lady of the Glen, when we bottle these things, we bottle at cask strength all the time. We have a couple of things which are sort of more vattings rather than single cask or small batches, and it's not really for, not being rude when I say this, for normal people who don't sit here and drink single cask, people who don't sit here and listen to us chat about the wonders of the wonderful world of whiskey. They're people who are used to 40 and 43 and 46. Horse, a bit spicy. I talk a lot about Glenmurray, and not only because Ian's on, but I talk about Glenmurray and saying how above 46% Glenmurray becomes a totally different beast. The 40, 43% sort of stuff which you find often in the supermarket from Glenmurray is good whiskey. But when you get that higher strength, you build up that intensity, you get something really special.
Yeah.
But most people aren't used to drinking things above that. This week I just spent in Cognac, they bottle at 40 to 42% most of the time. And they'll actually reduce over time. They'll add water to the cask to drop the strength down as it matures. Although add a mixture of spirit and water, about sort of 25%. They'll add that in there to drop the strength down over time. So you get sort of aged spirit and water solubles from the cask. And I know the guys at White Peak in England have done an experiment with this with one of their Wireworks whiskies of using matured low strength spirit to drop the strength down. And you get a very different effect from that. But at the same time, the big thing is that it's lower strength. And the guys in Armagnac, you give them a brew de fou, cask strength. And a lot of them are going, no, why would you drink that? So yeah, it's so we're gradually learning and really sort of focusing on, me and a couple of mates of mine at the Whisky Exchange, is making whiskies for more people than just us. Yeah. We do have a fantastic whiskey geek market and whiskey connoisseur market, and everything like that, but there's also lots of people who just like a bottle of Glenfiddich 12-year-old, which is a solid dram, but it's not a 57% super sherry cask that's going to burn the side of your face off. So it's pleasantly burn the side of your face off.
That's something we often see. Mike's always kind of said the same about folk in the shop. A lot of people are just coming in familiar with a couple of brands and they're buying on behalf of somebody else, and they just want to stick with that familiarity. They've got like a very kind of, not basic, but like a sort of starter level knowledge of whiskey, and they just want something that they recognise, they know about. They don't necessarily want to have, they're like pushed out their comfort zones. They don't necessarily want to try independent bottlers. They just know Glenfiddich and they want that. So that's fine. Like, there's no shame in that at all. That's what they like.
Yeah.
The thing for me is always, I like whiskey shows, whiskey tasting, so I can give people things they like. But just say, you don't have to have a whole bottle. Just have a little sip of that. What do you reckon? And often they'll go, no, not for me. But then go, oh, wait a minute. Whether that's a bigger whiskey or a cask strength thing or something a little bit different cask wise or different distillery, whether it's a shochu or an Armagnac or cognac, rum, whatever. I throw all these things at people, and it very much is a case of giving people things they might like, and if they don't like it, that's fine. But trying to give people those opportunities to try new things is one of the things that me and the gang
That's
are really obsessed with.
the good thing about shows as well, though. Like, you've paid for your ticket, so like it doesn't matter if you tried something and didn't like it. You know, it's not a waste of money because you can just move on to the next table and try something else. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good opportunity to introduce yourself to different drinks, different brands, different maturations, and there's always somebody behind the table like yourself, or whether it's Paul or whoever else is on, Ian, who's there to tell you, you know, what's different about them, why this works, you know, what they've done. So yeah, it's definitely a great learning opportunity. Shows they just need more food. Honestly, I can't cope with how much booze there is and not enough food.
Well, Whisky Show, my one little plug for Whisky Show, which is unfortunately now sold. It's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we sold out the Friday and Saturday back in February and March. And it's in October,
Oh, wow.
end of September, October.
Nice.
So it's ridiculous we sell out so early. If you do want a ticket, email office@whiskyshow.com, ask them nicely, and they'll put you on the waiting list. People book a year in advance, and a lot of them drop out because life gets in the way. So we get most people tickets. But we now do food. Everybody gets food with their ticket. We also now have Scotch egg stand and cake stands. We had a curry stand the other year, which I'm not sure is entirely advisable, but yeah. But yeah, it's the whole thing.
Egg stand, like a stand of only Scotch eggs. That's the only thing you can get at
Yes.
there.
That sounds amazing.
If you've not seen the variety of Scotch eggs that people do these days, you have missed out. I'm a big fan of the Scotch egg, but yeah, a whole range of stuff.
Yeah, this is a whole new world to me. I don't like eggs, so it's not a world I'll be exploring. But wow, I didn't know you could experiment so much with Scotch eggs. So it's like the different outsides, like instead of like sausage meat, like something different, like haggis or something. Or
Yeah. The one which I always used to see was the vegetarian Scotch egg, which was not vegetarian. It was very much a ovo-pescatarian Scotch egg, which was an egg wrapped in smoked salmon, and then with mashed potato around the outside, breaded and deep fried.
wow,
They were
It'll smell like a volcano the day after.
An element of that, yeah. Oh dear me, it's food at shows is one of those things that people don't often think about. They really should, David Stoke popped on earlier on, and I went to the first Indie Spirits Festival that him and Roy and Greg organised up in Leith. It's brilliant. I'm going back next year. I've already signed up saying give me a table. I'm there.
We didn't see you. We were there. We didn't cross paths.
I was hidden behind my stand on my own for most of the time. I had a mate of mine with me. He popped up to come to the show and went, "Yeah, can I just come behind the stand and pour whiskey instead? I'm more used to doing that." We had to run away, so I didn't leave my stand for the entire time, apart from to go to the kebab van outside, because the food there was a chip and kebab van.
Yeah,
and while that was a fantastic thing, so I'm a very much a connoisseur of the kebab. I had some pointers for them, but cheese on a kebab, not for me. But that was it for food. And so when you're there for a whole afternoon, that's one of the things we try and do at the Whisky Show, is always give opportunities for food, because otherwise, we have spittoons everywhere. We encourage people to throw away whiskey they don't want to drink because it's just wasted booze points. If you drink something you don't like, you could put nice things in your face rather than the thing you don't like. And the people on the stands aren't insulted if you throw it away. That said, there was somebody at one of our shows who we do like a really spendy whiskeys. You can pay a token to get those ones. And somebody walked up to an anonymous stand, which I couldn't possibly tell you which Dalmore it is, and asked for their new 25-year-old, which had just been released, paid his token to get it, stared the brand ambassador down, drank the whiskey, spat it into the spittoon, poured the rest of the glass in, and went, "Thank you," and just walked off. And people, it was just like, "Oh, that's a proper slap." That was not a enjoying. That was a nope, not for me. Don't do that. But no, the people aren't. They don't care if you throw it away or anything like that. It's all about trying things, tasting things. Trying to try the more things you can do, and a bit of food helps you get through more whiskey. So yeah, definitely.
I guess the fear of food is if you overdo it, and if you've got like a burger van or a natural stand or something inside, the smell and the aromas get into the room and all that, and there's that. But especially if you're serving people Scotch eggs, and half an hour after that stand's open, you're going to get some pretty whiffy notes going about.
I don't mean to sound rude, but it's a whiskey show. After a couple of hours, there's a little bit of an odour knocking around anyway. So
And
That's
everyone's nose is gone anyway, isn't it? So
true.
Yeah. No. But anyway, if anybody wants to come to the Whiskey Show, we still have Sunday tickets. And Diego, I mentioned last week that Diego and I are going to do a class. We had a meeting this morning. We had a chat on Teams to finalise it. We know what we're doing now. We knew we were doing anyway a sherry and whiskey class because it's me and Diego. Of course, we're doing a sherry and whiskey class. Diego is the king of sherry and whiskey. I love sherry and whiskey as well. So that'll be going on sale as soon as somebody in our events team copies and pastes the text that I wrote to their website. So we'll be announcing the whiskies as we confirm them. Diego's currently hassling his various different people he knows to get cast samples of a load of interesting sherry matured whiskies,
Okay.
and also a load of sherry bodegas to get some stock. And he's basically doing all the work. Yes, I will reap the rewards of that in the show whenever that is, October. So
Awesome. Well, we did find out last week that he pretty much knows everybody. So, yeah, hopefully he'll get some good samples.
he told me off today because I was telling him, you know everybody. He's like, I don't know everybody. I really don't. I was like, well, I don't care. You know everybody. And I tell everybody you know everybody. You guys have seen this as well. He knows everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. International man of booze.
Yeah.
Get his face on
or
a board.
man of international booze.
Yeah, nicely done. Yeah, man of international booze.
Callum was asking if anyone gets to go to the Campbelltown Malts Festival. Any of you guys? Are you talking to us specifically, Callum, or the guys at home as well? For me personally, the last time I was at Campbelltown Malts was 2017. I was part of the Springbank School that year, the week of the festival, which was phenomenal. Mark Watt, who was in the Foghouse today, actually, he sends his regards. He's up visiting family, so he can't join in tonight.
Cool.
But he told me to tell you, Billy, that he says hello. So he had a siphoning cask. I'm going to say, because that's physically what it was, siphoning casks into bottles, ready for the Karen Heads Day of the Campbelltown Festival. And I've just looked over, and I do have, and I've never opened it. I've got so much like ridiculous whiskey in here that it's just been lying around in my garage. I had a problem in that I had a whiskey room, and it got too big for the room it was in. So Tony said, you need to you need to get rid of it or stop buying bottles because you're filling the room. Plus we had Killian on the way, so I had to move it out because that was his room. This is the second room I've had to evacuate because of Killian. So don't have kids, guys. They just make you move your whiskey into different rooms. But the bonus is when you move your whiskey collection into a bigger room, it looks like a smaller collection. So there is a bonus there, and you then get allowed to buy more whiskey. But yeah, I came across this guy, Kilkerran 11-year-old, from the Open Day 2017. And I think I'm just going to crack it because why not?
Why not? When I was in Glasgow on Tuesday night, I went into the Bonaccord for the first time, as I was saying, and Marcos from North Star Spirits was doing a Springbank and Kilkerran tasting for their whiskey club. Like the Bonacord's got its own whiskey club, I think. So they were all having their dinner, and Marcus was telling them all about these amazing whiskies. He's such a lovely lad. He's so enthusiastic. I love hearing him talk about whiskey. So I think he'd stepped in to do it as a favour, but because it was Springbank and Kilkerran, it was sold out. So the place was rammed, but yeah, really cool vibe.
So I saw your picture on Instagram of sort of like the edge of a curly hair in the corner of, of some stairs.
He was,
I was going to steal it for her future beard. She was going to like get a snip off.
I'm about to say, if Marcus ever wants to get rid of his hair, that's perfect. Sort of like pirate beard material.
Yeah, I know he does have pretty awesome hair, to be honest. So anyway, and such a lovely lad too.
Very
yeah.
But no, Campbelltown. I've been up to Campbelltown a few times, but I've never been to the festival. I was offered a place offered a room this year for the last couple of days, and I couldn't justify it. It wasn't for work; it would just be me going up drinking, and it's going to cost so much money for a last minute trip up, even before I started spending money on whiskey. However, I have hopefully convinced Mark Watt that my lovely company counts as somebody who's a friend of Watt Whiskey. So I hopefully will be up at the Friends of What Whisky next year. So hopefully get a couple of days of the festival in as well.
Well, that'd be good.
So, but no,
I've never been to
it's
the
a
festival.
fantastic festival. Oh,
I'd love
you need
to
to go
go.
sometime. As do I.
I know. Yes, let's work it in so we're all there at the same time. I've only been to Campbellton once, and that was like 2 years ago. Such a gorgeous part of the world, and so no, I'll need to go for the. I've never actually really done whiskey. I've never actually really done a whiskey festival. Actually, the first one I really did was Speyside this year. I know, because either I'm usually working at it or just at work in general. So I've never really gone as like a punter. It's like a proper festival. 'Cause I haven't done the Isla one. I haven't done the Campbellton one.
You've done all the prep for the Isla one, though, haven't you?
Yeah, literally just stood in the basement of Lefroy putting second lanyards on thousands of glasses and then left before the festival started. But yeah, and if you bought a bottle of Bimore for the festival this year, I would probably have stuck the label on it. But yeah, I need to go over actually for the festival and see what it's all about. I'll definitely sort
There's
that.
loads of festivals around the UK these days, all over the place. I said I'm going to the York Whisky Society's mini festival, which is like 40, 50 people and 6 exhibitors. So everything from that all the way up to our show in October. I just saw Indian Mastiff on YouTube just popped up and said, "Oh, we did an intro to whiskey show this year. We tried to bring in a welcome to whiskey, we called it, like a beginner's show. Get people who aren't going to go around asking for all the scary ancient cast strength things and just say, here's some really great whiskey, come and learn." Annoyingly, I was really, really sick, and I thought it was hay fever and was really quite high on feverishness. Managed to get to the show and was told, go home. Please, just go home. Got a cab home and woke up 2 days later. So I missed the Welcome to Whiskey show, but really, really good fun for everybody else. And you can just find shows all over pretty much every weekend. The reason why I was sick is I went up to the Glasgow National Whisky Festival, and obviously shaking hands, giving people hugs, I picked up some kind of bug and was then really, really sick for the next week and a half. The joys of con flu, conference flu, and show lurgy of very different kinds. So, oh dear, Callum, I don't think we're friends anymore.
Does English whiskey count?
Oh, Callum's playing a dangerous game tonight because he literally said up earlier
God.
that he's never owned a bottle of Glengarry either, so he's just insulting everyone on the chat tonight.
I mean, the only one he hasn't offended is me. So
far,
Callum, we're still friends.
Well, at the same time, though, I received an email apropos of nothing from a whiskey historian a little while ago. Just said, "Oh, by the way, Billy, do you know that the Scottish whiskey industry is entirely based on the whiskey of the Victorian era English whiskey industry? Full stop, Chris." Industrialized whiskey is basically something that we invented in the UK, in England, and then Scotland copied the way that England did it and created the modern whiskey industry out of it, is what one whiskey historian has told me. So, English whiskey is the original. And, Dave Broom and Arthur Motley told us the other day that Dutch whiskey is the original and that we all learned from the Dutch. So I reckon it was the Egyptians. It's probably the Egyptians.
Yeah, I think certainly distillation, as we know it, comes from Egypt or the Far East, isn't it? It's,
the Middle East, I would say, is probably where distillation comes from. Distillation of a beer, probably Egypt. Yeah. Distillation of, I say this in the book, Scotland and Ireland always argue over who is the first people to distill. The first written record of someone making aqua vitae of some kind is in Ireland, and the first one of someone using grain to make aqua vitae is in Scotland. Yeah. The Scottish one has monks being very pious and making booze. The Irish one has someone getting drunk and dying.
Yeah.
I will say nothing about the characters in different countries.
Was that the 1404 record that Ireland has? The Book
Annals of
Clonmacnoise
Noise is the Irish one, and there's Brother John Core and all that sort of stuff in Scotland.
Yeah. There's a 90-year difference. I know that. I think it's the 1404 Book of Annals. And but the funny thing is, if you look at, I know it's Wikipedia, but it's still funny to look up of Irish inventions. There's a 200-year gap between Ireland inventing whiskey and anything else. It's just humorous. I mean, it's absolute nonsense, but it's great fun to.
It's the thing I say because as ever, there's in the book. I have all these little box outs, which is like, this sort of whiskey or whiskey and all that sort of thing. All the little questions people ask, and one of them in there is, who made whiskey first? Is it Scotland or Ireland?
Mm.
Ireland or Scotland, who made whiskey first? And my comment is, I find the easiest way to get people from Ireland and Scotland to come to an agreement on the subject is to suggest that English invented whiskey. The resounding no elicits it's about the closest that Scotland and Ireland are ever going to agree about whiskey. So yeah, it's definitely not us. It was probably us. So.
Well, we'll never know. So
We'll never, and if we do find out, we're never going to brag about it. We're never going to advertise that nonsense.
As I always say, it's a long time ago, and all we can tell is that Scotland and Ireland have both been making fantastic spirits for a very long time.
It's beautifully done.
English invented whiskey. Anyway,
I mean, let's be fair. They are catching up. You guys are catching up on the whiskey. Is I when we opened the shops, which is 10 years ago this year, we took in the English Whiskey Company. I think it was batch 7. It was a rum cask, and it wasn't the best whiskey in the world. We wanted to showcase because we had a world whiskey, and I thought, well, England's new and upcoming, and it took us about 4 years to sell that case of whiskey. And I know one bottle was bought for a stag do, so it was a joke buy because the stag was a big whiskey fan. And one bottle I opened for a blind world whiskey tasting and came last. So the level of the whiskey back then, but you look at what guys are doing, your Bimbers, the St. George's, where this whiskey was from, at Lakes, it's exponentially better now.
Yeah. Well, I was invited, actually, my third booking for the day, which I turned down to come and have a chat with you guys, was to go to the launch of the 18-year-old English whiskey at the English Whiskey Company today at St. George's. I'm hopefully going to see them later in the year. But they got to the point now that they have 18-year-old whiskey. They are now a mature distiller. I can't quite see it because it's dark, but Bimber's over there. I'm 20 minutes away from Bimber.
Oh, really?
I've got a cask. So I've got a cask, literally a cask, which I was filled by, I think it was originally a 200-litre cask over in the US, filled by Kings County in Brooklyn. Well, New York area. I think it's Brooklyn. Anyway, that was recoopered into a 20-litre cask, brought over to the UK, filled with London Distillery Company whiskey, the late lamented by nobody but me, London Distillery Company, which folded. I bottled that, so I've got some London Distillery Company whiskey, so the first London whiskey in 109 years. Took it to Bimber, they refilled it for me. However, it was a bit stinky, so they took the cask to pieces because I left it for too long. Scraped the inside, recharred it for me, recoopered it to make sure it was tight again. So I basically have a rechar 20-litre cask of London whiskey, which I've now bottled as well, which is fantastic. It's like London bourbon. And that cask is now refilled with White Peak Wireworks whiskey and is sat at the distillery. And if you go for a tour there and Tom's giving you the tour, you say, where's Billy's cask? He will show you because it's right next to the bit where you sit when you're drinking your whiskey.
Oh,
but that's 3 next April. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So there's loads of great English whiskey, and I've seen it grow. I've met some of the people. So Dan Zorr from Cotswolds, I met him before he built the distillery. He was at a whiskey show and brought over by a friend of mine who said, Billy, you need to meet Dan. Dan, you need to meet Billy. And it's like, what do you do then? He's like, I work in finance. It's like, well, I used to. I said, well, I'm building a whiskey distillery. It's like, that's why we need to know each other. And there's all these, I've seen these things develop and grow, and there's so much great whiskey out there now. Even like last week, Spirit of Birmingham launched their first whiskey. And Tony Pancakes, as he's often known, from Spirit of Birmingham, absolute nutter, very, very good at poking the establishment, but makes great spirit that's unlike anybody else. It's a really exciting time in England. We shall see. Scotland makes great booze. Ireland makes great booze. England's making some very nice booze. We're getting there.
No, it's exciting because how many distilleries are we up to now in England? Like, there's a lot more than I think that I used to know. I think there were like 3 or 4, but there must be a lot more now.
We're up to about 40 odd now, I think. Not everybody's got spirit, but everybody's got whiskey yet. Everybody's got spirit,
yeah.
But we had like a Retribution release their first whiskey recently, Spirit of Birmingham, a couple of weeks, well, literally last week. But there's lots of smaller guys, little guys who've been making whiskey in the back garden for a little bit. People who've upgraded from small stills to bigger stills. Lots of stuff going on. It's really exciting. And well, it'll be in the news again soon. They did that whole English GI thing earlier on in the year, which I ended up being interviewed for Radio 4's daily news program about it on a
Wow.
Friday, just after a news story all about Gaza. And yeah, that was a really interesting change of pace where the guy said, and of course everybody died. Anyway, and there was
Finally.
a noise, and it's like, and now we're going to talk about whiskey with a whiskey expert. It's like, oh god, that's a proper handbrake term.
Was that live?
Fortunately not. No, that was earlier on in the day. The guy needed a dram after he'd done all the other stuff. So I bought him a few whiskeys. I recorded a 15-minute interview, which was excellent, if I say myself. And unfortunately, they used 5 minutes of it, losing all of my excellent nuanced points and my poking the SWA and poking the English Whiskey Guild as well.
No.
But no, that's going to be there are loads of objections to the English GI, and that over the next 6 months, I think it is, there's going to be a bit of horse trading, and we'll hit the news again when they finally get to a point where they want to put out the next version, which hopefully will be agreed by more people. So English whiskey is going to pop in the news for legal reasons, but also hopefully will pop in the news for tasting lovely as well. There's some really good ones out there.
One of those notebooks have an English whiskey distillery written down the spine of it. Can we see that in the future of writing from you?
Very annoyingly, a friend of mine who's a publisher commissioned somebody else to write the English whiskey book. I have told him off. But yeah, maybe, as I say, I've been keeping an eye on it since the early days, but I'm now way behind. You know, there's a load of other folks that are so much more connected than me. So,
Mike was just saying it's not David Stirk, is it?
well, I was really annoyed when David Stirk did that book, so I was planning doing exactly the same book. But unfortunately, I don't know how to drive. So Dave had a proper, step.
Oh, it's David. It is David, is it?
Yeah, no. Dave, no, it's not David Stirk. Somebody else did. But David Stirk's book, I wanted to do the same thing in Scotland, and I failed.
Okay.
He got there first. But yeah, well, if you're going to do a new Barnard, if you got a shiny car like Dave does, I'll let him have that one. But no, it's a guy I don't even know. I think it's a beer guy who publishes stuff, and so I totally missed out on that. It's one of the things that's been in the back of my brain to write for a long time. Because in my little book, the entire English whiskey section is in the other countries section, no, that's America. A load of this book's all about the wonders of a history of whiskey. But yeah, so the entire English bit is 1 page.
Yeah.
However, it does mention St George's Distillery, and Andrew Nelstrup from St George's came to say hello to me at a show recently. He said, "Oh, you've written a book? I didn't realise." And I said, "Yeah. You're mentioned in it." It's like, what? What about English whiskey? So that's right about your family. It's now available at the English Whiskey Distillery in wherever it is, near Norwich. So, yes. No, it's definitely, there's loads of things I want to write about, and there's not enough time. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's almost like I have a day job, which requires me to do lots of other things. So,
this working for a living just gets right in the way of the fun stuff, doesn't it?
it really does. The problem at my house, my work gets in the way of my work. It's very annoying.
Well, we're all lucky that we're working, doing something we enjoy, so we shouldn't take that for granted because not many people are in the same position as us. So, yeah.
Very grateful every day.
Yes, definitely. Even if you are unloading 3 pallets of stock in like 26 degrees heat in a black uniform and safety boots, hating the world. But every other day is great. No, it's not. When a lorry turns up and somebody comes in with a delivery note, you're like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean you put it in the car park? Okay,
you're the driver. You deal with it.
This is one of the nice things of have now being one of the sort of the old kids at my job is, and we also have a huge staff these days. Back in the olden days, occasionally there was a case of like you come help us unload a thing. These days we have other people who are professionals who specialize in that. I specialize in sitting on my ass in a chair. I'm very good at it.
Nailing it.
And having everything I need at hand.
I think we should get your own sort of franchise of notebooks and also those extendable grabbers. You can just, you press the button and pick things up.
That'd be really helpful because I have to lean like this. The other random books in my collection: How to Speak Japanese, and a complete list of all Japanese whiskies released between 1929 and 2019.
Wow, that's a fun book. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's insane.
Yeah. As I say, I have a very random whiskey bookshelf.
We have to
Unfortunately, this
see.
isn't available. Written by a Japanese guy, therefore the wrong way around. But yeah, this guy, I bought it during lockdown. He did an English version for the first time ever in black and white. I ordered it. He didn't send it. He forgot. And I emailed him like 6 months later saying, "Hi, I never got my book." And he said, "I'm so very sorry. I have one copy of the color one left. I will send it to you." So I have this beautiful, basically it's a book of a wiki. It's a Japanese whiskey wiki. And it tries to, Japanese whiskey wiki. Yes, that's what I said. And it tries to list every single Japanese whiskey ever produced. Yeah, so this is the Chichibu section. So pictures of almost every single Chichibu you'll ever see.
Goodness.
Absolutely amazing book. And I lost it for 4 years until I found it earlier on this year. Got it during lockdown. And I found it in a box, having thought I'd lent it to somebody who'd stolen it. So perils of having too many books.
You know what? I absolutely love books, and I've got a wee collection. Half of it's down here, and I actually have. You know, we talked about wisdom. No, it's a collapsing shelf. I've got wine for dummies here as well, which I really need to line up for my new bar. But the thing about a book is, especially a whiskey book, we found this out with Ingvar about the malt whiskey yearbook, is as soon as it's published, it's out of date. So that book about every Japanese whiskey, it's like, you know, by the time it's got to
every
you,
year. It's like the malt whiskey yearbook. You know, Ingvar does a new version every single year to make sure he fills in thing. That guy's been publishing the book in Japanese every single year since he started the project. That's the only year, as far as I know, he ever did English copies of it. I've got somewhere. I've got the Japanese whiskey yearbook, which they do this year. Well, sorry, last year they did their first ever English language copy of it, and they run out by the time I got to that stand at the Chichibu Festival. So I have a Japanese version which I can't read. So I'm working on it, but Japanese is a hard language to read. So yeah, it's all a bit ridiculous.
I was going to say, Diego says good night, but we've maybe missed him. I think it was like a while ago. We had a little flurry of people saying good night for a bit, but I think some of them head off to do Roy's chat on the next.
Yeah. I did try and get everyone on the chat. I did say try and get comment to them all to say good night. Callum has commented on your ability to reach over in a seat and not fall off. And therefore you're not going to be invited back because falling off chairs is what we do nowadays.
Well, my chair has got arms on the sides of it for a good reason. Scarily, this really crappy office chair, which is too low for this desk, too low for my knees, I've had since I was at university back in the late 90s. It is currently knocking on 30 years old. It is destroyed, it is broken, but the one thing I've never done is fallen out of it. Nice. Even during, I still have it. I have my special bottle here on the shelf. Which I bought back in 2011 so I could write about Buckfast cocktails. Never actually opened it until we got to lockdown. And the first industry drinking session I did during lockdown, I drank that. And I woke up in this chair, having not fallen out of it, but having gone over sideways and been caught on the arm, so I didn't fall out of my chair. But the chair was also covered in Buckfast, and so still underneath the cushions I have on it now, there's a beautiful purple stain all across it where I managed to spill Buckfast all over my chair.
A Buckfast stain.
This chair's been through a lot. It's a great thing to have in the background during lockdown because I did lots of tastings, lots of chats with people and things like that. And every now and again, speak to people from Glasgow, especially, I sort of go, "Oh, I've got some Buckfast. Can't you get any anymore?" "Oh no, sorry, there's a shortage, isn't there?" "Oh, never mind." I got swore at by a lot of people. So
that is information, Callum Renton. I did not push Kenny MacDonald over. He fell, and if you watch the replay, you can clearly see him falling. I was nowhere near him. not having that.
I don't think the quality of camera was clear enough to confirm or deny that.
I think you can see my shock when I turn around and I'm like, where the hell is he? And you just see his feet in the air. So, yeah, not me.
I have to look back and watch this again because Kenny's a big chap, and if he goes down, that's potential destruction for people.
Yeah. We had to get the guys in to reinforce the shop ceiling after it because that was an upstairs. That was a first floor fall.
Bless him. His foot just got caught in the carpet, and he just kind of just kept going.
Reb is asking. He's saying, could Billy recommend a good book on sherry in English? I'm not sure, Billy. I've got a great book, and I was looking for it just now. By Talia Boo. I can't remember her last name. I've never been able to pronounce it. It's called The Modern Guide to Sherry, which is a fantastic book. I think it's down at the shop just now, but
I really only can't remember the name of the book I've got. It's part of a series, Nicholas Faith Cognac. It's basically a bunch of grape-related books, really, really great ones. I'm trying to remember the series of it. I remember one of them is by Nicholas Faith on cognac. It's a brilliant book. Nicholas Faith, incredibly grumpy, now passed away, wine writer, known for being quite a grumpy old man, but beautiful writer as well. And there's a whole chapter in the cognac book all about the rappers and how the rappers like the cognac, which I find absolutely hilarious. Infinite Ideas, Classic Wine Library. There we go. So in my opinion, it's the best sort of like beginner's guide to sherry. So the joys of Google.
yeah,
Watching a man Google, always good. Right, here we go. Sherry, The Infinite Ideas Classic Wine Library by Julian Jeffs. I should not have forgotten Julian Jeffs, another fantastic writer. Yeah, so Sherry by Julian Jeffs, Jeffs is his surname. Really good chap. But again, that's a really good, the whole of that series, they're really good beginner's guides, but not like, kids' guides, but proper in-depth, but good place to start where you can get lots of information.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, sherry, definitely.
nice.
So, yeah, no, I love sherry, and I did a load of training on sherry back in my early days in the booze industry. I met the right people at the right time and ended up going to some tasting, some training sessions. Yeah, it's a fantastic and fascinating subject. I've still never been to Jerez, so,
Oh, no, you'll have to get that one sorted.
Yeah, well, I say, I'm sure Diego has been out by now to give me a little guided tour. He can drive, so that's even better. He can drive me around.
Well, we've missed you. Your challenge. You're going to have to ask. Do some bargaining when you get him over for your whiskey show.
Yeah.
So he'll be over. We're getting a hotel room, so lock him in there. He can't come out until he promises to drive me around sherry.
Rev just commented he's got a book called Sherry. I think it's Modern Guide to Sherry by Talia, and I couldn't remember her last name, Baiocchi. But that's a book I've got. And no, I did enjoy it. I think it was her almost journalizing her sherry discovery. But yeah, Diego would be a fantastic, and I think you've connected with him, Reb. So, why read a book when you know a guy who can probably get you into the industry a little bit more?
Yeah, Diego's been really great in sort of like getting me in more, teaching me a lot more. My whiskey club we did, I think, last October. Diego was over and we did a tasting, which we're basing our tasting whiskey show on. And it really was just a case of getting somebody who knows about how the sherry industry works. But that's the thing, is it's so different to a lot of other industries. And you get a bunch of geeks in the room, they ask me questions, and I go, I can't answer that. You ask Diego, and he goes, oh, no, your question's wrong. Let me tell you what you should be asking. And it's properly really great to get somebody who really knows, especially someone from the whiskey world as well, who gets that crossover. So, yeah, Reb, you definitely need to speak to Diego sometime.
His ears be burning now. He's like literally tuned out 5 minutes ago, and now he's getting all the love on the chat. Nobody tell him.
It's 20 past 11. He's had a long day. He was telling me earlier on he was running in 37-degree heat, which is his own choice. So, but yes, no, he's on holiday at the moment as well. So he's only working half days,
Charmed life and all that.
Busy bunny. Busy bunny.
We were blessed with these presents, weren't we, for that couple of hours? But yeah, Billy, it has been absolutely fantastic to be chatting to you today. I can't even begin to sum up the conversation we've had. The topics we've gone from Lego to Star
Beard.
Wars to
Like,
Babylon 5 haircuts and
yeah,
beards.
world spirit, some of which I've never heard of. Just you're
If
like,
I can't get a Babylon 5 reference in, I'm definitely not working hard enough. So
You're not working on it. Yeah.
well,
I can imagine Ian Allen just sit back and clapped when you got that one in.
well, as very briefly, I met Ian. I went up to Glenmurray to do a tour, and I went for a cigarette. I took my hat off and I left it on the seat, and he thought it was the gardener's hat, and so tucked it up and tucked it at the corner of the flower bed. And I wandered back, I realised I left it behind, and said, "Oh, in the shop, did anybody found a hat?" And Ian went, "Oh God, it's in the garden. Sorry." We got talking, realised we we're both big fans of Star Wars and Lego, and we've been mates ever since. So yeah.
There you go.
And it literally the joys of Star Wars and Lego as a combination that has found me more friends in the whiskey world than almost anything else apart from whiskey. So
yeah, he's a lovely guy. He's also watching, so we have to say that. But you're a very lovely guy.
Absolutely.
there he is. There we go. Cool. My God, he's
Legend.
lasted this long talking to me. Listening to me talk anyway. So anyway,
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. You are welcome on whenever and whenever you like. You're yeah. So much.
It seems like so far away. I'm sure it's going to fly around. If we don't meet you in person beforehand, we will see you at Leith Festival next year.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
would love to make sure that we can get a date in the diary before that, if possible. And
Yeah, definitely.
meet you in person.
Got it. And you'll be able to find me at the Leaf Festival because I have a pull-up for my book, and it is this colour. You can't miss it. You can see it from space.
Well,
Just to re-emphasise, it's this colour.
and you can sign the people's books for them, right? We'll all bring our books down, and you can sign your name on it.
Indeed. And
But
also,
only to Billy from Billy. That's
I
the
want
only
to believe from
signature.
Billy on it.
I've only done that once. So. But no, if you want to find me on the internet, billyabbott.co.uk, 2 T's, 2 B's. I'm not, Abbott's with 1 T is special. I'm not anywhere near special enough. billyabbott.co.uk. Loads of links on there. But philosophyofwhisky.com, you can find a shop with my book in it, which is fulfilled by me from this desk where I have a printer there and I have a load of envelopes around here somewhere as well. So, yeah, if anybody wants a book, Mr. Amazon does it for 2p cheaper than me, so you know.
Guys, get it straight from Billy.
Exactly.
You know it makes sense. Absolutely.
I
And
do a couple of quid worth of beer money every time, so thank you very much if you do. So.
which is also acquired right from where you're sitting. You know,
Yeah, under the bed over
some
there.
beer fridge somewhere.
I need one of those grabbers. I really do.
You do. Let's crowdfund and get Billy a long handle grabber so he can start reaching more things in that room.
Seriously, I definitely don't need that because I need to get out of my chair from time to time. I really like this chair. I've had it for 30 years. There's a reason why I like it, you know. So, oh dear.
Just a quick shout out, Ian, if you're still watching, Reb is on YouTube and he's commenting, so you might not see his comments, but Reb is saying that Glenmurray was his first single malt back in 1985, and it was a Glenmurray 12-year-old Highland Regiment in the metal tins. We see quite a few of them going about. But that's great, Reb, that Glenmurray was your first single malt. So that goes out to
I was
Ian.
born. That's really cool.
Wow. Wait to bring a guy down, Kat. Yeah. Think of the beard you could have grown in that time.
I know, I could have had a mega beard by now. Wasted.
Fantastic, Billy. Yeah, what a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for giving up your Thursday night. And you've been reeling off these appointments that you've given up to come and chat to us. So we really appreciate it.
Only 2. One of them was work, and one of them was going over to Norwich. So you've saved me, basically.
No, it's so interesting. Absolutely. Can't wait to see any more books that you get coming out. And yeah, you're always welcome back because you've just so many stories. Like, just and you don't even tell it in like a sort of 11-year way. It's just like your job, or your jobs, your multiple jobs are just so interesting. So we could talk to you anytime. So you're always welcome back.
Thank
You
very
can be
much.
like, you can also be my new Andrew Smith. Every time we have somebody pull out last minute, we're just going to get you back on because you've got loads of stories.
I am often available at short notice. So
Awesome. I'm gonna write that down.
You'll regret saying that, Billy. Absolutely regret saying
oh, no, not at all.
Thank you
It's been
very
a pleasure.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys. I shall see you soon.
Yes.
Excellent.
Take care.
Kat, before we disappear, do we have next week?
So not anymore. We don't. But it's our last one of the summer. So I thought maybe just do like a sum up of like best bits of.
Summer sum up.
Yes, and there's a chance that I might not make it because it's Tall Ships Week as well. But let's just go for. Let's hope that
Okay.
it's a.
So, guys, tune in next week for me talking about
But your
some whiskey
favorite.
stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll keep you
Oh, it's
updated.
going to be the biggest crowd ever. Tell you what, I'll do it from the Foghouse. I'll do it from a new whiskey bar. So
Yeah.
we'll just chat to some random guys who we find in there. Today we had Andrew and Chris from Little Brown Dog, and Mark and Kate from What Whiskey we're in today. So who knows who's going to be in the bar next week?
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Cool. We'll
Let's
see you all next
try
week.
something. Cheerio, guys. Been a pleasure. Billy, have a great night, and
Thanks a lot.
see you soon.